What's up? This is Scott Mellinger from ZAO, and you're listening to Discography Discussion.
Oh, it's really loud, dude.
Yeah, I'll fix that in a minute. Don't worry.
All right.
I say shit real slow too, because I talk fast, and if I talk fast when I do that kind of stuff, I always fuck it up and fumble, and so I found it's like the trick of. I don't have a stutter, but the trick of stutterers is to talk slower.
Yeah, like James Earl Jones.
Yeah.
And if you believe the trick of James Earl Jones is to speak slow, then you are ready for this episode of Discography Discussion. I am Joe. That is Dan. That is Jeff. Ladies and gentlemen, Scott Mellinger from ZAO. Is it Mellinger or Mellinger? I've always wondered.
It's Gurr, actually.
Gurr. Excellent. I've been right this whole time.
Hey, if you listen to that ZAO episode, because I wasn't sure, I just alternated every time I said it.
Yeah. Well, the German pronunciation obviously is Jur, and we played in Germany, and we played in Europe, and our bus driver was a German,
right?
And when he heard my last name, he was like, Mellinger, good name. Right? And I'm like, oh, fuck, I don't say it like that, but I'm going to.
I'm just going to let it go, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go with it.
Say it like that. It's fine. But yeah, so we pronounce it Gur, but I'm sure it's wrong. But everybody's pronunciations are wrong when they came over here because everybody wanted to fit in.
That's okay. I'm Jeff with a G, so I get all kinds of goofy stuff. So
yeah, he's G-off.
Yeah, I'm G-off, G-off. Anything you can think of, man. Yeah, like Jeffrey the Giraffe from Toys R Us. That's what I am.
When I was little, I thought younger, I thought the singer of Queensryche was Geoff Tate.
Oh, yeah. I listened to my favorite singer is Geoff Tate, yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I can't tell you how many fights I got in as a kid over the pronunciation of my name. I was so sensitive to it as a kid.
Sucks.
Well, at least you're not a Sean, Sean, that's S-E-A-N.
Oh, I went to school.
That's rough.
I went to school with a girl. Her name was Kissa. Her last name was Sewer.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
That's rough.
Yeah, Kissa Sewer, man. I'm like, what the fuck were her parents thinking? I was like, oh. And she was the most beautiful girl in school, but just because of her name, she just got trashed, incessantly. So
I was going to say she got shit on, but...
yeah. I wasn't going to go there.
So, Dan, who are we talking about tonight?
Sorry, I'm so sorry, Joe.
Oh yeah.
Keep it going. I don't care.
He's trying to run a professional...
I'm here for all
He's
night.
trying to run a professional operation, and I'm just guzzling beer and being like... Arr.
Get it out of your system. Keep going.
I think
It's Neurosis, isn't it, man?
Yeah, we're talking about Neurosis.
Right?
We are, yeah.
Yeah, all right, cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, you're drinking water. We're drinking beer. Sorry.
I was going to pour the ZAO beer, and I'm like, I'll just fucking get so dry it would suck.
Plus, we'll all be giving you the stink eye the whole time because we'd be like,
we'd be jealous.
Well, that shit's draft only, and we're
Hey, this is draft only.
They've bottled each of us got 10 bottles.
Right.
That's pretty much all.
Like friends or family kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of shitty. I'd love to have some or more of it. To give out and sell and stuff because it's fucking good.
Yeah, that's what I hear. So
yeah, I tell you what, this IPA is rather magical.
Yeah,
and I'm not even an IPA guy. It's not quite as bitter.
It's pretty good. So
yeah, I'm not. I'm kind of a stout guy.
Oh yeah, breakfast stout all the way for me, man.
Yeah. Those IPAs, every time I try so hard, I just can't do them.
Yeah, this one's there's a local place here. They just opened up less than a year ago, and this IPA is not stupid bitter. It's got a bit of the tartness to it, but it's not stupid bitter. I can't handle the bitter by the overpowered hops.
Yeah,
there's a place up in New England area called Gritty's, and they have the best stout on the face of the earth. It's called Blackfly Stout.
I'll have to try that, dude.
Yeah, if you're ever up there, because they there's no preservatives, so they don't transport any further than Pennsylvania.
Wow,
absolutely phenomenal if you're up that way.
Have you tried the KBS?
I have not.
It's a weird special thing that only released certain times of the year.
I can never get my hands on it.
Yeah, it's like a coffee stout that's aged and shit. It's insane. It's so good, man. But
that sounds good to me. I love coffee stouts.
Me too.
So, Jeff, how much Neurosis did you listen to for the past 2 weeks?
A lot more than I thought I was going to. I didn't realize how massive their discography was until after the fact. Wow.
What happened? Was Josh driving around blasting Neurosis in the trunk of his car?
Oh, maybe. You know what? If you actually go in the back of the trunk of Josh's car, it's actually kind of like a bachelor pad, so I was pretty comfortable back there.
He must live out of his car again.
Yeah, it must be.
That's where you've been for 2 weeks.
There you go. Yeah, it's funnier, too, because I hadn't listened in a while. Because there's just day in and day out, it gets so old. Hey, check out this band, check out this band, check out this band. And then, like, the stuff that you, liked that was formative, you never have any time to listen to that stuff. Because everybody's always, check this out or check that out. And so I was like, shit, has it been like 5 years since I sat down and listened to a Neurosis album? Like, sat there with a beer in the basement and just listened, Yeah,
that might be my fault. I'm the one that's always making Dan go on left turns and finding weird shit from weird countries. That's kind of always been my listening style. But, man, I was really impressed on how much of a change Neurosis did from their early, punk years to where they're at now. It was really it was a fun journey. It really was. What about you, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, it wasn't new to me. No, it wasn't new. It wasn't new to me.
Hey, Jeff. Scott's here too.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I'm working around. It's cool. I'll jump in.
My
bad. Let me know when I'm here.
I might have had a couple before I started.
Well, no, I mean, it was definitely cool. Actually, I listened to. There was an album that you had to listen to with another album playing at the same time. Which was
Times of Grace.
Times of Grace, yeah. Because I listened to Times of Grace, and when I was listening to it for this, I was like, this is the weak one. There's not as much layering going on. There's not as much texture to it. It was good, but it wasn't, super great. And then so I had to go on YouTube to find the other album to play it with, and somebody was nice enough to actually sync them together into one video. So I listened to that, and I was like, okay, there's all the shit that I said was missing, it's all in there. So I mean, that really threw me for a loop, because at first I was like, what assholes, why would they, what makes them think that they're so great that they can do this? And then, you listen to the other records and you're like, okay, I get it.
All right, Scott, why is Neurosis so important to you? I mean, what made you want to talk about them on this podcast?
Well, I mean, if you listen to our band, obviously, we worship that band. I think, well, for me, I remember I came in a little later, because a lot of my friends, I think, got into them when Enemy of the Sun came out. And it took me through Silver and Blood to get it. And I remember I was watching, I think it was a Weird Oz Fest video where they had a video of them playing Locust Star.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
And I mean, literally, the beginning of that song, that nice melodic, still creepy as shit thing. And then when it just comes in with Scott Kelly's vocal and everything gets huge, literally from that moment, that's after like listening to Metallica, that's what I wanted a band to be like again for me. Like, so Metallica was this thing where I was like, okay, I want to play Master of Puppets all the time. Great, let's do it. Then I heard Neurosis and I was like, no, that is actually what I want to do.
Right, for
Very
sure.
cool. Yeah,
Like-
absolutely.
So, I mean, it's just, I don't know. There's just something about the, like, it's hard to explain because, like, I feel like that band is legitimately terrifying. Like, there's not any bands that I've ever heard that don't come off as like hokey when they're being scary.
Right,
And,
it's
like,
not
Neurosis-
cheesy. It's
Straight up
Yeah.
haunting. I love it.
It gets fucking in there, man. Like,
Yeah, like, and those dudes, like, they don't, like, they're talking about, like, I mean, if you read the lyrics, they're not really like scary, but it's just terrifying.
it's the fucking. It's a combination of the fucking layering of
Yep.
everything. I mean, literally, there's just layers upon layers upon layers upon layers of shit going on. And so that's kind of nervous enough because, like, the human ear is always looking for that melody. They're looking for that, you know. And with Neurosis, if you go in and looking for that, you will find it, but you'll find 10 other variations of it going on at the same time. And then at some point, you start becoming kind of like very uncomfortable because you're trying to latch onto. It's not even that they're making scary music. I mean, they do, but like it's not like it's not that it's scary necessarily in and of itself. Like all the parts together or all the parts separated. But if you put it all together as a whole, I get a very unsettling feeling whenever I'm listening to it, which I over the years have trained myself to enjoy. Like because it's part of the experience.
Too with me, like so. I'm always drawn to like vocalists too, because it's really hard for me to like. I mean, I enjoy screaming vocals, but like it has to be a specific way for me to really like it.
Sure.
And the way they do it, like Scott and Steve's vocal, they almost sound like one person a lot of the time when they're doing their screams. But honestly, dude, like when Dave Edwardson sings, there are people that like, do like death metal guttural vocals. Mm-hmm. That guy sounds like he talks like that.
Right. Yeah. That's his actual fucking voice.
That's his voice. He doesn't, there's no shit on there. Like that is like legitimately him doing that. And like, you can even watch the videos like recently when he sings the parts that he's supposed to, like in Locust Star at the end of it. Like, dude, it's just, he's fucking insane. Like, I don't know where that comes from. And I've never heard anybody actually be able to do that without doing like a fake like tempo change for the vocals to get like low like that.
Right. It just comes naturally, which in a lot of metal, it's very forced.
Yep.
It's forced in there. And I don't hear the word forced is definitely something I never hear in Neurosis. I don't ever feel like they're in a hurry. They're never like, well, okay, we got to speed this shit up so that people can jump into a pit. Like it's never like it's not even on the radar.
You mean like Cannibal Corpse?
Yeah, maybe a little bit. But
talk about forced.
Well, yeah, but like with Neurosis, it's definitely like because we talked about a band a couple weeks ago called Callisto that plays a very watered down kind of version of what Neurosis kind of started with the whole. I guess if you want to call it post metal or whatever.
Yeah.
I always just call it doom metal hardcore because that's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, I give up on all that stuff anymore. Like, but I hear you.
Oh, you're talking my language. I hate trying to pigeonhole and try to say a band is one particular thing. Like it's either it's good or it's not.
Well, I'm not going to argue with somebody in the street about it, but like for my own personal, like if I'm trying to describe it to one of my buddies or whatever, I just kind of call it whatever it sounds like to me. And so when I listen to Neurosis, I hear elements of doom metal, but then I also hear elements of hardcore still, especially on the earlier records. And,
well, Scott, answer this question then. Sure. For years, I've heard the Misfits be referred to as horrorcore. And I've heard Rob Zombie say he wants to be horrorcore, but let's be honest, he's not. Well, if the Misfits are horrorcore, what would you call Neurosis? Because the Misfits are a punk band, and Neurosis is just scary.
And see, and that's like the Misfits like version of horrorcore. Even when like they were back and Danzig was singing for them, I think they claim it because they were singing about horror movies. I don't think the Misfits ever was scary, really. I look at it like this. So, like, the Misfits would probably be like a Saw movie, okay? And Neurosis would be like a legit documentary on a serial killer. Horrorcore, to me, if that's what they're going to call themselves, I think it really doesn't have anything to do with anything other than they just sing about horror movies. Like, Neurosis is just fucking scary.
So you're saying the Misfits is Tobin Bell and Neurosis is H.H. Holmes?
Yeah, I was going to say H.H. Holmes.
Yes, there you go. Yeah, perfect.
And now that they're trying to say H.H. Holmes was also Jack the Ripper.
I saw
Did you guys see that? Yeah.
It doesn't help either that like the entire time I was listening to Neurosis, because I'm like really obsessed with like true crime stuff.
Dude, I just watched I watch documentaries all the time because like I've got to a point where I love horror movies. Me and Dan talk about it all the time. I love them. But like nothing affects me really. Like I'll watch a horror movie and I'll either just like it, but it doesn't really necessarily affect me.
Yeah, sometimes I laugh like because they're just so funny,
Because it's so It's
not that I like love killing people, but you know what I mean. It's like it's just comedic how they went about it.
Like I love makeup effects and special effects, so I love the gore for that aspect. I'm not like watching it to like. It doesn't do anything to me. I'm just totally desensitized. So me and Dan, like I'm like, dude, I want to find. Like I'm starting to watch documentaries because like when you have like real shit happen and you're watching them, it it legitimately fucks with me. Like, I watched this one yesterday. I forget the name of it, but it was basically an HBO documentary that this dad made, and his son committed suicide. So it's like it's a documentary like showing this kid growing up and like all the signs of like his depression and like bipolar disorder, and then he eventually commits suicide. And like I've been screwed up for 2 days watching it, but like I don't know why, but I feel like alive when I watch that stuff because it's like so affecting.
Well,
like,
by comparison too, it almost makes you happy, like for where you're at versus this fucked up stuff that's going on. You know?
Yeah. Like there was a documentary that I always tell everybody to watch called Dear Zachary, and I don't want to say anything about it. If you haven't watched it, you should watch it without knowing anything, and you can watch it for free on YouTube. But it happened like near my house. Like I can go to the house that this stuff like sort of happened, and it's like right there. So it's like proximity to me like messes with me, and it's literally like BuzzFeed had it as like one of the most disturbing documentaries ever. It is just, it's heartbreaking the whole time. There's nothing good about it, like, but it's so affecting, and it like. I've had people come up to me and be like, "Oh, thanks for telling me to watch that. You're a piece of shit. Like, it ruined like my whole week."
Okay, so true story. I only watched the first half of that documentary at a friend's house, and I was like, this is so good. I'm gonna go ahead. Me and the wife are gonna sit down and watch it later. She still brings that shit up. I mean, to this day, it's like, why the hell would you sit me down and make me watch something like that? I mean, she's bawling at the end of it, and I'm bawling, and we're just like, oh my God, like
crushed.
It was so fucked crushed. Up. Yeah,
I know. But dude, don't like.
And that was before I had kids, you know, like.
Yep. Yeah. Like you feel like I cried so hard it felt like therapy because it was so brutal.
Yeah, it was rough.
But yeah. Sorry.
No, it's okay, man.
Right.
I think it fits because I've been, like I was saying, I've been watching stuff like that with Neurosis on in the background, or I've been reading about serial killers and shit on mostly Wikipedia if I'm at work, which sometimes throws up a red flag to the IT department, but
that's like my point, like that feeling. Even though like Neurosis isn't doing anything just like that, I mean, but obviously, but the way their music makes me feel is like that. It's like there's this really like real terrifying edge to it, and it's not like they're like, because what I think draws me to them too is what like watching Steve or Scott or any of these guys in the band like do interviews, and they talk about how like they write music as what we do, like we like always talk about it as like a therapeutic thing, so like everything horrible in you just comes out from it, all the stuff that you want to release gets released, and to them it's not like I'm writing a song for anybody to like care about.
Right.
The song is written for me to release this pain and whatever, and if you come along with me, great. But it has nothing to do with you, and we don't write music for you. We write it for ourselves, and I respect that a lot because you kind of have to do that over time. You know what I mean? You're just, because if you ever write things for an audience, people aren't gonna like it. Honestly,
your shit's gonna sound fake.
Yeah, it's definitely contrived. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. You should write it for yourself, and then your listeners be able to view it from whatever perspective they choose to view it from.
Yeah.
And they get to interpret it how it works for them.
Yep. That's exactly right.
Yeah. Like for me, Neurosis is like this hauntingly beautiful thing. Like I was telling Dan, there was a couple of times I literally fell asleep listening to it because it's just so, for me, it was cathartic and really relaxing, and just was able to just let all of that bullshit out and just like take a deep breath and then just let it out. And I was like, okay, I can just totally chill now. And it's amazing because it's not very often that I actually feel that way, because I'm kind of a high-strung individual, and they really, really mellow me out when I'm listening to it. And it's amazing on how it affects somebody's emotions. They were really, really good about taking somebody's emotions and really twisting it and and you literally do the music affects how you feel, which is really, really cool. Because not every band's like that. They're really, really good on that emotional level and really being able to connect with their listeners.
It almost reminds me of that feeling you get when real life catches up to you.
Yeah.
It's like everything's going perfect, and then hello.
Yeah. I think coupled with that feeling of horror, that feeling of dread that I get sometimes when I listen, especially to the really early stuff, like Enemy of the Sun and stuff like that, it was just really and Souls at Zero, like those albums.
Oh, Souls at Zero.
Like I feel
I love that one.
I feel almost a little uncomfortable listening to it. Like I remember being a youth group kid in high school, and I was listening to Souls at Zero and like the youth pastor or whatever, like. I was listening to it in my car, and the youth pastor comes up to me later, and he's just like, "Is there anything you need to talk about? Because it sounds to me like you're about to end it all." And he's like, "Well, he's like, what were you listening to?" And I didn't want to tell him I was listening to Neurosis, so I was like,
children's programming?
Jars of Clay, man.
Yeah, dude, it was Jars of Clay.
Yeah, that was Flood, man. That was the new version.
Yeah, but then you go to Neurosis albums too, like Sun That Never Sets, I think it's called. And and that record is actually kind of beautiful, which is it's like it at that up to that point I didn't know if they were really capable of being beautiful. I mean, they had melodic stuff before with like a little bit of singing, but like the emotion on that album is just, I mean, it cuts me. Like I guess it's gonna sound really lame, but I guess I bleed emotionally to this just as much as I did to the old stuff, but in a different, but manipulating different emotions in me,
Yep. Yeah, because I think a lot of that earlier Neurosis stuff was a little more like pissed off, kind of like.
Yeah, it was angry. It's what I was used to listening to,
Yeah, and then like when you get to like Sun That Never Sets, and then even like this later stuff, like Give Another Rising, there's some of that like angry type stuff, but it really is more like sort of just like melancholy. Like it's like Bob Dylan, like a really sad, darker Bob Dylan.
Well, I remember when the very first time I heard the clean singing kick in on that album, and I literally did a double take. I was like, oh shit, did I hit? Am I on shuffle and I just hit to the wrong thing? You know what I mean? Like, am I in my like folk section now? Like
Yeah. Well, I bought Steve Von Till's When the Crow Flies solo record, and it really is. It's so good. It is just like, it's all that stuff, just sad, sort of this like floaty, dark, but really beautiful at the same time.
Yeah, I like the fact that the clean vocals is more like a baritone.
Oh yeah, I know, right?
That really.
You don't hear that enough.
Yeah, I've said that on a couple different podcasts. Like that's really like a hook, line, and sinker for me, man. I'm there whenever I get tired of the high pitched, whiny, clean vocals. That really, I can't. I can only take so much of that. I mean, it's good in chunks, I guess. But like if I was to like put something on like repeat and listen to it over and over again, and it's clean vocals, it's got to have that baritone resonance and that haunting feel to it. And man, they hit that big time.
I agree. And that's what I like. It's almost weird too, because like the way Scott, well, I think Steve Von Till does most of that like singing part.
Yes, I think so.
But the way they do it, it's really it's got like Tom Waitsy vibe to it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
And if like we tried to do that, it'd probably sound terrible. But like the way he nails it so good that it's like, I think of a lot of, if I heard a lot of bands do it, I might not, I wouldn't believe it. Like I believe him when he's doing it.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like it's not like he's making his voice sound like that. I think Steve Von Till actually is singing. That's his way. Just like Tom Waits. When you listen to Tom Waits, like that's just how he's doing it. Like it's not like he's attempting to sound like that. That's what he sounds like, and that's how he sings. Same with Steve Von Till. Like it's almost like I don't think that dude could sing any other way, and it would be weird if he did.
Well, and that's why it works, because if you have an overproduced melodic vocal, in a song, I think it's one of those things where it like can, if it's so clean and it's so focused on sounding beautiful, I guess That's why you hear people that are singing like way out of their range. And maybe it took them like 100 times in the studio, Demon Hunter, like that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it took a Joe to make him sound good.
Yeah, like
it took an engineer to make it sound good.
Well,
right.
I'm not gonna. Funeral of God wasn't necessarily the best vocal performance of my life either.
I was going to say, Scott, the last time I think I heard you sing baritone was Jade Meridian.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Shit. Jesus, Joe, he had to go there.
I didn't even think that stuff that wasn't real, right?
That was a dream we all had together.
Yeah, I didn't. I woke
It's on
up
YouTube somewhere. Yeah, just like all of my past sins. But yeah, like it's.
Oh God, it's so.
Well, it's so funny because cool. When we were we were such fans that like even I was like, this is this is cool. Yeah, I like this. Yeah, because that's just what happens when you get so plugged into a band that it doesn't. After a while, it stops mattering, a little bit because regardless of what you think of the new stuff, the old stuff's still there and it's still great, So like you don't have to worry about it, But that type of singing just it came across as very, very emotional and very very real and very cutting, And the only thing I can compare it to is I'm gonna try to keep my ZAO comparisons down a little bit, but it's kind of like when Dan kind of just talks, like speaks like in that monotone, but like it's monotone and it's robotic, but like it can bring you to tears, just with that type of sincerity. And so I get the same type of vibe there with Neurosis because it's like, holy shit, this is real life. And it doesn't even and this is the only time I'll say this, that the lyrics aren't really what I'm focused on as much. Because Neurosis, a lot of their lyrics are very abstract.
Get out of my house.
So it's like they're not like you're not going to be in a Neurosis song where they're like, okay guys, this song's about That's not them. There's not a central theme. It's definitely one of those like, we wrote these lyrics because they had to do with where I was in my life at that time, and I wrote these lyrics as again therapy for myself. And if you can pull something out of those lyrics that's good and beneficial to you, then that's awesome. But we're not trying to lead you in any direction or anything like that.
Yeah, that's actually pretty unusual for Dan. Dan is very
opinionated.
Well, besides that, he's very lyric-centric. I guess that's because he used to be a lead singer in a band.
Well, dude, I got to be honest with you, Dan. I am too. Like, I have so much trouble listening to bands when I don't believe them.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
big time.
I want you, and the thing about Neurosis that's cool is like it's so abstract, and I know I totally know where you're going because it's so abstract. There's meaning in it. But it's not like a cut and dry. Like I think the way Dan has like kind of morphed himself to where he's being a little more abstract now.
Yeah.
But I like he'll tell me what the songs are about, and like once he tells me, it just destroys my brain because I totally see. But so knowing that kind of stuff, like Neurosis lyrics they're perfect to me because I get what they're trying to do. But if there's, there's so many bands, dude, I just can't listen to them because their lyrics are so stupid.
Yeah, dude.
So dumb.
Well, you ever hear the band Ghost?
Yes. Yeah. I can't.
We posted the Ghost episode.
I can't. Ugh.
And that was my whole thing is the lyrics are just so fucking atrocious that I can't.
Yeah, I can't do it.
And it's not even like the satanic lyrics thing. Like, even though I come from a Christian background, I'm not like knocking it for having a different worldview than me, but like what I am knocking it for is just being overtly cheesy to where you're almost like doing more damage like to your worldview, like presenting it in that respect. And so like the lyrics were just so dumb. I was like, I can't get over the whole image versus substance part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you.
It's just, ugh.
Yeah, and that was the funny thing is the previous band that the guy who does Ghost was Repugnant.
And they were really fucking good.
It was really good. And we're like, wow. I'm like, you could tell what he was going for.
Yeah.
Wow.
Dan and I have known each other for quite a while. Not as long as Dan and Joe have known each other, but I've always been the atmospheric listener.
Okay.
And Dan's always been the analytical, lyrical listener. So like he'll be telling me all this stuff about a song and I'm like, I don't know. I was like, it sounds good and it all works together. I have no idea what they're singing about. So yeah, it sounds like you and Dan are like right on the same page. That's why he gave me the high five earlier, because he was like, yes, somebody who else who listens to the lyrics besides just me.
Yeah, I'm totally on that board. Like it has to actually mean something. You have to be telling me the truth, like your truth somehow. You know what I mean? Dude, like by no means, I say this all the time, but like I think that's the only reason why ZAO has what it has, because Dan's telling you the truth. Like his lyrics are so integral to what we do that, like, I mean, I think the music's cool, but it's not like, to me, what's most important about us is his lyrical content, and I love that.
But it's also emotionally believable too. I'm like that's always how. And I think that's actually the reason why I like Neurosis, even if I don't know how, I have no idea what he's singing about because it's so abstract. The emotional side of it just sucks me in. And that's how I like to listen to it. It's not necessarily that the lyrics don't mean anything to me, because we talked about Pantera not too long ago, and
I loved Pantera until I got to a point where I read their lyrics. Now I will still listen to like Far Beyond Driven and want to punch things, and that's fine.
Right.
But holy shit, those lyrics are fucking horrible.
Yeah, they really are.
Bad.
This was like a summer spectacular episode that we did where I had been talking shit on Pantera pretty much through the entire length of the show. And so one night they were like, all right, tonight we're talking about Testament. And I'm like, fuck yeah, we're talking about Testament, you know, and it was awesome. And then they're like, no, we're talking about Pantera.
So they had all a farce.
They had everybody, they had everybody that had been on the show up to that point that wanted to do it come on and basically argue with me back and forth as to why Pantera was, you know, a good band. And it was rough.
Yeah, it was rough. It ended up being...
All I kept being is like, dude, the lyrics are fucking atrocious. That's all I could really come up with is I hate the dude and I can't separate it from the music.
Right. Now, and I ended up saying the same thing because I love Daryl and Vinnie Paul, but...
Me too. Absolutely.
Yeah, all the stuff from Phil, I was just like, okay, yep, I'm done. Like, I have a hard time listening to Pantera, no matter how much I like the music and how much I have that emotional connection. Like you said, I like when to punch a fucking wall. And
I love it.
I feel like I'm a monster. I'm a god. But and then I find out everything that, like, how terrible of an individual and human being he is, and I'm like, oh yeah, I have a hard time listening to it now.
Yeah, I can't. Well, dude, I forget who I was talking to. I think we were listening to it when it came out, and I remember specifically because it just disgusted me so bad. When you listen, like on Far Beyond Driven, I forget the song. I think it's like Bottles, like five. What the hell is the record song called? I don't know. Whatever the song's called.
Good Friends and a Bottle of Pills.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We were talking about that one.
When he says I fucked your girlfriend last night, I almost threw the fucking CD out the window.
Yeah, on the Pantera episode, I read all the lyrics on that, and I was like, "That's my whole fucking argument right here," you know, like. And then it's funny because the dude I was talking to, I think it was Brandon Kellum.
Yeah, it was Brandon.
He's like, "Well, Dan, those lyrics are taken out of context," and I was all like, "Please enlighten me," you know, like.
Yeah, Brandon tried to
let
say
me know how I can take that out of
shit.
Context. Yeah, like come on, dude.
It's like a bad text message from 2010.
Oh, it's bad. Yeah, like it's just
so
bad.
bad.
I mean, we're not. Yeah, I need to not talk about that. I'm
gonna reel this back in a little bit here into Neurosis and say, Scott.
Yes.
Is there one Neurosis record that you lean towards, or is there, depending on the mood, I'm gonna go for this one or that one?
Well, Through Silver and Blood's by far my favorite record. But I actually really like Times of Grace. So like that, it's weird. Like Souls at Zero, I don't listen to enough, but I like it. But like the trilogy for me is Enemy of the Sun, Through Silver and Blood, and Times of Grace. Now, I have Sun That Never Sets. I bought Given to the Rising. I didn't get Fires Within Fires yet, but like I really like all of that stuff, but I just tend, as a complete record, I think Through Silver and Blood from beginning to end, like everything they did on that record is exactly it's like the perfect record for me, because it, you know, the way they use samples in that record, the way they use sounds in that record, the songs themselves, everything about Through Silver and Blood it's like the perfect record. There's like nothing on that record's out of place. Every song needs to be there, even if I have lesser, like even songs that I feel like are lesser than the other ones. They're still like I can listen to that from beginning to end. Times of Grace, the first like 4 or 5 songs, I'm like so keyed in, and then it starts to lose me a little bit. Enemy of the Sun's pretty good as a whole record, but it just doesn't have the same vibe as Through Silver and Blood to me.
That's my favorite one, Enemy of the Sun.
Is that the one you give to somebody that's never listened to Neurosis before?
I think so. I think that record showcases everything about what they are like as a complete entity, sort of, because as much as I like Enemy of the Sun, they didn't really delve into like the doomy stuff too much yet. Like they were still that was kind of like just a good heavy like post metal, whatever you want to call, post hardcore, whatever.
Post avant-garde industrial aggro.
Yeah. So Through Silver and Blood has some of what Enemy of the Sun has, but it like totally opened them up to that doom stuff that I think for me just like was perfect. Like that's my favorite.
Jeff, did you have a favorite one?
Yeah, I had a couple.
You had a couple of favorites?
Yeah,
is that okay?
There you go, changing the rules again.
What the hell is that? Yeah, that's fine.
I end up,
What's your guys' favorite new metal band? All right, I have 2. Wait a second now.
Yeah, right.
They give me shit because I do it like every episode. Like I can't like say I have a favorite because I've never been that way. Even like whenever I say like, hey, pick a favorite Beatles album, I'm like, I got 2. Like I do that with everything.
Yeah, I can't do that with Beatles either. There's no way. There's a couple I like.
Just lie and be fake. Don't worry about it.
Rubber Soul and White Album, yeah. And it's like, I'm a weirdo because I like those too. No, Sun That Never Sets is like, I really, really like that. And I think I like, as a collective whole, I like a lot of their stuff because they're not afraid to use like string instruments that aren't a guitar and a bass. Like that's really, really important to me, and the fact they bring horns in too, that's cool too. But like I played classical music for a decade before I got into metal, so like that's like really like when I hear that, it's like it's bringing 2 worlds together for me. Like I feel whole, I feel like complete because it's like bringing the 2 sides of me and making me one. And so like when they do that, I was like, oh my god, like I love these guys.
Isn't it weird that more metal bands don't do that? Like, you think about, like, Wagner stuff. I mean, that is dark as hell.
It really is.
Some of his stuff is so dark. Like, it blows my mind that you don't see more metal bands, like, put that, like... And Neurosis is, like, the perfect band to do that, because it does work so well.
Yeah, those other strings work so well with that haunting sound. I mean, it really does. So, yeah, and Enemy of the Sun, that's... probably my other, and then I like Souls at Zero a ton as well. So I guess I got a 3-way tie. So I'm taking it from 2 to 3.
Get out of my house.
Yeah, come on, man. Like, what the hell is that?
I tell you what, man. I normally whenever I sit down and because since it's discography discussion, my listening process is I like to start at the beginning and then go all the way through multiple times. But those 3 albums, I actually stopped and listened to them multiple times going through it. So that's generally when I know, like, okay, yeah, this is really connecting with me. Whenever I'll stop through a discography and I'll want to listen to a particular album over and over again before I move on to the next, those 3 really did it for me, and I really, really liked them. And actually, I do like their early punk roots too. I enjoyed it. I think what's so cool about their whole discography is like if they touch multiple emotions, throughout it. There's a lot of angst in the beginning and some then angry and then haunting, and I'm like, and I can go through so many different emotions and moods with their albums, and there's always something to match it. And I really, really, really I love that because there's so many bands that they find their quote unquote groove and then they stick with it. I'm like, no, stretch outside that box and find those different things and create something new but still hold their identity. And I think Neurosis is really the embodiment of that. So I'm glad we're doing this episode. I don't listen to Neurosis regularly, but man, I listened to them a ton the last 2 weeks, and it's been really, really enjoyable. So I'm glad you're on the show, because I've had an enjoyable experience listening to this music, and people at work look at me like I'm a nut job, because I work at there's other people around me, and I'm blasting this stuff, and they're like, "What the hell are you listening to?" And I'm like, "You should check it out."
Right. Yeah. You should. I enjoy a lot of their earlier records too. I bought that Aberration 7-inch with the Richard Ramirez cover where he's holding the and I guess the only thing that for me I think what happened was a band I got into before Neurosis, which is kind of weird, is this band called His Hero Is Gone. They were from Tennessee. They kind of took like that early Neurosis, like really crust, like punky, like really aggressive stuff, and they did it really, really well. So like I listened to them, and then I went back and listened to Neurosis, and Neurosis was obviously the ones that kind of started that whole thing. If you look at the year, I mean, Pain of Mind was 87. So I mean, they were doing this stuff before anybody else. But since I went backwards, it felt weird to me, because like His Hero Is Gone was so much heavier. I couldn't get past. Like, I think I like His Hero Is Gone better than Neurosis. And then that's what I think through Silver and Blood, like that record, nobody has been able to do that. And that's what I love about it. Like that, when they did that record, they turned into something totally different that is their own, and nobody has been able to mimic, thankfully. And I'm sure there's people that try, but like they did something so seminal that there wasn't anything else that I was like, oh, this band's a little bit better than them, like doing this. Like, I think that's what hindered some of that earlier stuff for me. But, and then too, like when you get like Souls of Zero is a great record, and for some reason it just didn't, like, going backwards might have hurt me, I think, because like
it can, because it's built upon what came before.
It's the expectations whenever you go backwards, whenever you're, because that's still back in their formative years. It changes things. So we've talked about that on a couple of different podcasts, where if you get introduced to a band in the middle of their discography, the stuff before, sometimes it's harder to to go back to. It's much easier to go forward than it is backwards. So that's part of the reason why when I'm listening to stuff to prepare for an episode,
try to do it. Yep.
Yeah, in succession. Yeah.
Yep. Totally makes sense, because I think it absolutely like messed up my whole opinion. Because when you listen to that and then you go backwards, it's almost like you just like subconsciously you're like, this is like worse, even though no, this is the steps they needed to take to get to where they got.
Exactly.
So,
and that's why, like normally whenever we do a podcast like this, we'll go from beginning to end. But like whenever we did the Black Sabbath one a while back, there were just too many fucking albums. It was like we can't take 2 hours and then want to talk to you about other stuff afterward. Like we have to be more respectful of people's time than that. So like we're
no, I like this.
Yeah, I like the more casual podcast. That's been that's been what we've been shooting. And there's a lot of Travis worship that goes on here, but.
Have you guys been face to face yet?
Yeah, we were in a band in 2006, and we recorded our album at his house. Yeah, so that's before that. That's all I knew him from, and then I remember catching wind that he had a podcast. It was Mark Garza from Embodiment was on it, and he talked to him for a long time. Yeah, and then I was super stoked because then I heard the ZAO one where it was like everybody talking about the entire album, so I got to hear a lot of shit off that record before it came out, which was really cool. And I was like, it wasn't as much of a hey, we could do that kind of thing, but it was more of like a, why are we not doing something similar?
Well, that's what I think. That's what I love about podcasts is like you hear people, like Travis is just a good dude and he just likes to talk to people. So if you're that type of like personality, like just you can do a podcast because it's fun. Like to me, like I enjoy conversations with people and I enjoy just this whole like thing, you know what I mean? And like that's what me and Travis talk all the time. And I get mad because I'm like, we should be recording these because we have such a good conversation. But yeah.
A buddy of mine called me like 3 a.m. the other night, and he was telling me, like, I hadn't talked to him in like 12 years. He calls me in the middle of the night, and he's like telling me how he's in the military and how he'd killed people and how he, back in the day, I was like, not like killed people like in a civilian sort of, but like, just as he's like, and all this. And I was like, oh man, that's really heavy. Like, I don't even know what to do with that. But then the podcaster in me is like, because we talked for like 2 hours, and I was just like, shit, I wish I'd been recording that, because that was really good stuff. And
I reached him.
Yeah. Like,
Yep.
That sort of stuff. We were like, well, we should do something similar to that. And then we came up with the discography thing, which has been a little bit limiting for us. It's like really cool to be able to go from beginning to end when we're like by ourselves. But then we got this taste in our mouth for talking to people. And, it was like, that's cool too. I'd almost like doing that more because, 3 guys in St. Louis in a basement that no one's ever heard of doesn't carry as much weight as like getting somebody in that knows things, like actually knows stuff, and it's not just like our opinion about everything. Mm-hmm. That was where the whole fascination with Travis thing came in, where it was like, hey man, he can do this. Maybe we can do it too. We'll see.
What I think is really cool about what you're doing with like this for this episode is like every dude in a band, there's always going to be a band that they love, and
right, yeah.
being able to be like, hey, our thing is like, we're going to talk to you, but like we're going to talk sort of the discography of your favorite band.
Right.
What band would you want to choose? It gives another aspect of like them, like as an artist or a musician, like they get to talk about what inspires them, and it's not in like a cheesy like, oh, here's an interview way. It's like, no, they get to talk about like, what is it about this band that like inspired you, and what do you take from them to put in your own thing. I think this is cool.
So funny story about Through Silver and Blood.
Okay.
I like to create work playlists because I get so busy lately that I don't have time to monitor the music that I'm listening to. So about a week ago, I created a playlist. On that playlist was Through Silver and Blood, Liberate, Tex and Fairies, Souls at Zero, Picket Fence Cartel by Project 86, and I think the other one was Hall of the Mountain King by Savatage.
Oh, wow.
My phone got on a loop of Through Silver and Blood and Liberate, and I must have just not been paying attention because it took me about 45 minutes to notice.
That's awesome. That's like the best thing ever.
I'm sitting there like I'm really focused, and I'm like, oh man, this Through Silver and Blood is really good. Wait a minute, and I pull the phone up, I'm like, oh, I left that on shuffle. All right, that we're already in. Here we go.
I walk out the room for 1 second. You start talking about Liberate. What the hell?
I'm just saying. It happened.
Okay.
You're like, listen to Neurosis this week. So I'm like, all right, put them together. And, I'm busy. Wow, this is really good. Hang on a second.
Oops.
Oh, all right. Well, we're already here.
Every time I hear Liberate, I think Liberate X and Fairies, which is from...
that's Event Horizon. There's
Event Horizon.
There's clips from that movie all over the record. Yeah.
You, sir, have clearly not listened.
No, I have. I'm just saying.
I don't even think the name of that record's not right. I don't think it's the actual what he says even. Like, I don't know how that actually was called. I think he says like something like to May X and Fairies or something in the movie.
Yeah, because they're trying to decipher, is it you or me? And and they finally figure out it's save
you.
yourself.
It's you. Get out of here.
Instead of save me, it's save yourself.
Yeah. Okay. It's so sad because a lot of the things that people even get wrong are totally misconceptions that everybody thinks.
Right.
Like on Blood and Fire, Russ had a lot more to do with it than like people realize.
Everybody says it's Brett. Yeah.
Yeah, like everybody says it's Brett. All like the weird, like cool chords are Russ. Like,
right.
And like all the like little octave melody chords.
Right.
That's more Brett's style, which you can see like him go off. Like, I don't know how much of really he wrote in Juliana Theory guitar wise, but I know he wrote a little bit. And but yeah, a lot of like the dirty, weird shit on Blood and Fire is like all Russ doing. Just was in that vibe. And like I did a band that was playing at the same time as them, and we did all that weird dissonant stuff. So like all of us like grew up like with bands that played dissonant stuff and listened to like death metal. So that all had dissonant stuff. But That's all. Russ.
No, it's all good. I mean, I remember listening when I got your email. I went back and listened to that episode, and I was like, "Oh shit!" People are listening to this. I was like, "Shit!" It's got like more than just like a couple of downloads. And I'm like, okay, well, because that was my whole thing. Is I was like, they're gonna listen to that episode and be like, I don't talk to these guys.
We're gonna listen to an episode and never be on this podcast,
right?
But no, we're on, dude. It's all good.
Why does Liberate sound so dirty? I'm dying to know.
Dude, so are we just transitioning to this section of the podcast?
Why not?
Well, Joe, I don't know if you can work your editing magic or not, but can we finish the Neurosis part?
Dude, we can
with,
just talk,
final thoughts,
and you don't need to worry about what I do.
So you just want me to sit back while you do the work? Got it. All right.
That's what she said.
Why does it sound so dirty?
Yes,
it always does.
I've been wondering for 12 years. Why does that thing sound so dirty?
One thing we can tell you is Joe is pretty...
Shut up, Jeff!
No, I was going to give you props, man. He's magical, man. As far as editing our bullshit and making it sound like a cohesive thought, he's pretty impressive at it.
That's awesome. That is a talent. I mean, because there's a lot of people that can't do that stuff.
I consider myself the emperor of all things audio.
Nice.
Oh, no weenie tap.
He does have a weenie tapper for when we get out of hand. Anyway, sorry, anyway.
I think all dudes, no matter what, always go for nuts and dick.
Every time.
I don't know why. We do it when we go on our trips, there's at least 5 a day of dick hits. It's just how it happens. Just how life works. Honestly, dude, I think it just sounds so dirty because we kind of didn't know what we were doing, really. I used probably one of the worst amps you could ever use, and
sounded like an 8-inch.
Yeah, and Russ had this really shitty JCM 2000 that we because you can really you listen to Blood and Fire, and that one's kind of produced.
It's crisp. It's very
it's real. And then we went into Liberate wanting it to sound like a Neurosis record, so we tried everything we could to make it a little more raw. And it was easy to do that stuff because back then we didn't record at clicks, and the guitars were just just so much overdrive on them to where you could sort of make them out.
Yeah, a buddy of mine was telling me how it basically just sounded like metal scraping on metal.
Yeah. But we were all in the weird, really weird metal at that time. I really like death metal. So with those dudes, there's so much gain on their amps, you can't even hear what they're listen to Cannibal Corpse. That's what they're still doing. It's just so distorted. But we weren't writing. I think what helped is we were writing a little more simpler riffs, but with that really dirty, overdriven, crazy saturated guitar, and it made for this overtone all the time with the guitars that helped make it sound just a lot grimier than a cleaned up guitar. And we didn't none of that stuff. None of that stuff was through we didn't use Pro Tools then. It was all to DAT tape.
Right.
Nice.
So you couldn't fix stuff. You weren't able to you could punch in, but you couldn't cut and paste and move things or any of that stuff.
Can't paste a chorus or something, yeah.
Yeah, so, and we were listening to Neurosis a lot, so I just think it was a culmination of Jesse's drums being just room, real roomy, and then our guitars being just so oversaturated. I think I used a Marshall and a crate. And
wow.
Yeah, why I look
Blue
back,
Voodoo?
I'm I think it was, or it was a Stealth. It was one of those weird tube crates, and it was garbage, but it sounded good when you played it. If you turn it up past 2, it's the worst thing ever, but it was okay for that. I think that's what it was. And we just attempted. I think really the thing that I look back on that record and I look at the most impactful thing to me is that intro.
Oh yeah.
Because that really, if we didn't do that intro the way we did it and started the record out with that, I don't think people would, it's a perception to them that it's dark, because that intro is such a dissonant, melodic, I don't know what you want to call it, just really, really sad sounding.
It's a downtrodden kind of, yeah.
Yeah. Because, dude, if you like think about it, so you have that super depressing, like grimy sounding beginning, and it goes into the Savannah song that's just a mess, like and then like Autopsy doesn't even really fit. It's like a little.
It sounds like a B-side off of Blood and Fire. You know, it's one of those like
it's a little. It's like a happy like. But like everybody, that record gets talked about like being a really dark record because there's a couple songs that are really dark and then some of them aren't. You know.
Well, yeah, I mean, like Desire of the End's really dark.
Yep.
Manny Cage, Jack Wilson is dark because it's just fucking terrifying, you know.
Oh, and it makes me so mad we couldn't do more with that. Like, I love that, and it just never. I wanted to like work longer and make it like get even more epic and big,
more Neurosis-y.
Yeah. But like, because what Jesse did with like, all he was doing is we put distortion on the mic, and he took I forget what he had, but he just scraped around the snare head so that like. Stuff you hear is just him scraping his snare head, and the little guitar thing that Russ actually came up with, that little guitar thing. I mean, I wish we could have worked on that stuff more, but we had such limited time. But yeah, to me, like that record really, there's like 5 super cool songs, and then the rest of it's just filler, and
it's really short. Yeah, that's as an adult, because like when I was in high school, man, like you couldn't do like. Liberate was like, I mean, the end all be all of a fucking record.
Tell me about it.
I know.
And
so funny.
Yeah, he had to listen to me for years, just be like, it's fucking great, man. You know. And
hey Dan, check this band out. Hey, check out ZAO.
Yeah, that happened a lot. But yeah, it was one of those like.
It's awesome.
Because I liked Blood and Fire. I actually had Liberate before I had Blood and Fire, because I don't think I got into ZAO until probably later on, like I don't know, maybe like 2001, maybe 2002, something like that.
Okay.
And so there was a lot of records out, and that's always a lot of fun because then you have to go on a scavenger hunt and find everything.
Which I think for us though it's super weird because like if you go backwards for us, like you get. I don't know. Like, I think it's been too like the religious aspect of the band. So like you go from Liberate to like Blood and Fire to like Splitter Shards. It's like, what the fuck kind of band what is this band? What are they doing?
Right. This is somebody's journey into atheism. Yeah. It's like,
basically.
Wow. But, you know, I mean, it kind of is, right? You know, it's not like a big deal, but,
no, yeah. Like you can easily see it. Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't bother me. I could see how it bothers like really religious people, but like, you know, it's funny to me, like all that having to deal with, like people used to always get on to me for, you know, be like, you listen to this band called ZAO and it just sounds absolutely satanic. And I'm like, well, I could show you some satanic bands, you know, that sound differently, but it's not really, you know, it's not really about the sound, you know. And with ZAO, I think it was like really always this really big sticking issue with people back in the day.
And I totally understand. Like you went from a band that like that dude was on stage. I mean, they were having like altar calls legitimately on stage. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then like when Dan came in, and this is what drives me fucking crazy. When Dan came in on Blood and Fire, things immediately changed. So like for people to say we should change our fucking name like now, are you nuts? Like we're closer, like we are Dan Wyant. As long as Dan Wyant is here, like we're talking about the same stuff he was talking about back then.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and he was still somewhat religious in the band. And like, as a band, like, and this is another thing that drives me, like, like I am really the only like atheist in the band. So like Dan is a little, he's like more agnostic, more like spiritual and like, but like isn't like a Christian. Russ isn't really a Christian, but somewhat spiritual. Marty's like a Christian, and Jeff's kind of like maybe closer to me, but like still on that middle ground. But like, I still want to do good shit.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like nothing changed. Like. Other than like, well, I just don't believe in something anymore, but like I want to do like good stuff all the time, you know? So,
right, yeah.
Yeah, morality is the most important point.
Yeah,
like being a good human being is like
that's
the most important part. Like,
yep.
Like if you're, you know, if it's religion that takes you to that to that plateau, then so be it. If it's something else, great too. I mean, as long as you know you're treating your fellow man in the proper manner. I mean, who cares how what it takes to get you there?
Well, I hate to say it, but like, who cares anyway? At the end of the day, what your religious affiliation is, because at the end of the day, it's kind of about like what you do. That determines how you impact the world around you. Just because you say you're super religious and you're doing all this because the Lord told you to, doesn't really equate, like it doesn't translate to anything, without action.
Yeah, because if you stop and think about it, like any religion, I mean, it doesn't matter really what it comes from. Like it really, the basis in it, if they view you as a good version of whatever that religion is how do you treat your fellow man?
And isn't that crazy though, that like religious people don't look at it that way though?
Because I know that's what's so funny. Works. But like, if you actually go in and you actually do your research, that's actually what it takes to make you a good version of whatever that religion is. I mean, that's what it takes. And they get so caught up in the fact that it, in the faction side of things, like you got to be this or you got to be that, They forget about how important it is to be good to everybody else.
Yeah. Well, how many Christians do you guys know that like totally condemn the Westboro Baptist Church? Absolutely. Every one of them, right?
Yeah, sure. I'm still counting.
Right, yeah. Everyone. Yeah, okay. Sure.
So guess what? Go read your Bible, because if anybody's doing it right, those people are.
They're doing it right.
Yeah, I mean, because if you stop and think about it, like if you commit adultery, you're supposed to be stoned.
Yeah.
I mean, like holy shit! Like if you stone somebody now, like you're getting the death sentence.
I could argue, Old Testament law all you want, about that stuff, but like, no, I get it. But
Jesus
I get it.
Never
though.
rebuked it.
He never did. And as a matter of fact, no, you're completely right. Like I agree with you. That. Whenever they asked, Jesus why he was there, he said the Son of Man did not come to earth to create peace, but to create conflict. Or I think he said to bring a sword, And so, there's a lot of that stuff that's like really hard to stomach. I mean, I still, essentially identify as a Christian, but like even today, like I went to church this morning because I feel like it's still a good environment for like my kids and my wife and stuff, at that early age. But like, we got into this
early
discussion.
age, and you said wife. So how much older are you than your wife?
No, I mean, I just mean the kids.
I'll put it this way: he graduated first.
Well,
I did too.
Yeah, by a year. Come on, dude. But like, anyway, so like, there was I dropped this whole like. I don't really think the origin is like that important. Like, I don't think anybody ever won any souls for the Lord based on like. Oh, well, since you were able to prove to me somehow that the origin of man was this versus this, that, now all of a sudden I'm like completely enraptured and on an emotional level, like that part of it didn't ever make any sense to me. And it's just really hard because I think as time goes on, I think everybody's getting a little bit more honest. And I think there was a kind of a mob mentality to Christianity. I mean, definitely all through the 90s and even in the early 2000s. Because I remember people would be like, "Hey man, what kind of bands are you into?" Because like I'd sang in a band for a couple of years, and there was always like this whole like we'd be at shows, and like the venue would be like, "I can't pay you guys. You guys are locals, so I can give you guys a free pitcher of beer." And then I'd fucking drink that entire pitcher of beer because I mean that's all I'm getting paid for that night,
You son of a bitch.
Yeah, right. Sorry, Joe, but yeah, I would drink it or whatever, but then somebody'd see it and then they go home and they tell their mom. And then when I go to church that next Sunday, like it's like I'm being fucking accosted, immediately for being, this all the terms that get thrown out, wolf in sheep's clothing, false, blah 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 blah. And it's like I almost feel like the only reason I go to church is because the pastor that runs the church, like he's the only one that gets me. Like when we started doing this podcast, a bunch of people were like, "Dude, there's really explicit content on this podcast and this
fuck
and
yeah there is."
And he's like I mean, Dan comes to church every Sunday, but I just never thought that that he would use language like that or whatever. And the pastor was just like, "No, I mean, dude's pretty much been that way for the last 15 years since I've met him, since I've known him, And And that's just the weird thing, is it like, especially in cases of bands like ZAO, where everybody's got this like really weird Klingon attachment to it, and then suddenly it's like, oh, those lyrics weren't quite what I expected them to be, so they're evil, or like
surprise.
I saw Dan smoking a cigarette the other day. Oh my god, I can't believe they would do something like that. Like, I could never really understand it, and that's why actually I'm a big fan of like the Bad Christian podcast. I listen to that a lot, but I remember actually getting kind of pissed off at them whenever I would listen to the interviews with you on there, because I was like, I like ZAO. You got Scott on here. That's cool, So I'd listen to it, and then they're like, it seemed like for them it was always about that. Like, they had to just talk about it like constantly. Like, I know they're like super cool and super progressive and okay with everything and blah blah blah, but the one that really stuck out to me was the whole like, well, if you found out that Jesus was Lord, would you? And I was like, what the fuck are you guys?
You mean like, if I found out, then I would agree?
What the fuck are you guys talking about?
So what's the problem?
Like, what kind of Yeah, I think you said that. It was like, what kind of question is that? Like, I don't really understand the question. Like, I am who I am, regardless of how you feel about it. Like, I don't know.
I think that was Joey. I think he asked me, like, wasn't it something like, if Jesus showed himself, would you believe him?
Well, yeah, like, obviously, sure. Yeah,
dude, if there's like once there's evidence, like, I'm on board. There is none. There's been 2,000 years of zero evidence, so I'm not on board. Like, and two, like, what kind of? I think he asked too, like, what kind of evidence would you need? I'm like, well, it's weird because, like, what the fuck? David Blaine does some crazy shit, man. Like, fakes people out. Like, what? I don't know what I'm going to be looking for, because who knows? Well,
it's just one of those things, unless it's like a Paul Saul situation, like, Jesus appears in front of you and says, dude, seriously, here's the holes in my hands, here's the this and that. There's really not a whole lot of convincing that really can be done beyond that.
And if that happens, dude, I'm going to be automatically in the hospital, because I've probably just had a fucking, what the hell? What do they call it?
Aneurysm, yeah.
Yeah, an aneurysm. Yeah, I just saw something that really wasn't there. But no, I like their podcast too. I really enjoyed being on there. And I knew it. And the whole reason why I was even allowed on there was because of the ZAO connection and because I'm not a Christian anymore. So I think that's the whole thing. And I get it.
That's their bread and butter, yeah.
Yeah, and it's sort of a bum out, because it's really hard in a podcast that's like an hour to like break down why I changed my beliefs and like what an atheist even is. So,
sure, yeah.
And they're the dudes, like, that's their shit. So, like, not that they edited me ever, but like, when you're off of it, they can say their end piece that is the last thing that sticks in people's heads. So no matter what I say, that last thing that they hear will either verify for them, like, if they come into it and they're religious and Christians, then they're going to be like, yeah, see, Scott's wrong.
Right, yeah.
Scott, I promise you this. I will not edit anything out unless you tell me to.
Yeah. Well, that's just one of the weird questions that I had, because I remember listening to that episode and I was like on a personal level, like, what the fuck was that about? Like, there's a certain sense of like, I guess, boundaries that come with this type of podcasting, and how it's kind of more freeform. I mean, podcasting is it's been around for 10 years, but it's kind of just starting to come into it's starting to come into its own now, more so. And so you get a lot of those like 2-hour exclusives with somebody, yep. And you get all this stuff, and it's just like, shit, they could have talked about anything and they wasted it on that. Like the same shit that they, and guys, I'm still totally down to do the interview. So, but it's just
this is the thing that I think that sucks. Like, so I love Matt, Toby, and Joey. Like, they're great dudes, and I love and I think they're doing such a good thing by having a podcast where they're like being real. But like, if you're being real, you're going down a path that might change your beliefs eventually. So just be ready for that. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause like where I'm at spiritually, go ahead. I'm sorry. I mean,
well, no, what I was going to, and you can finish your thought, but you go to church, you just said it, you go to church because your pastor's super awesome. You like the dude, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's great.
And that's it. I think people don't recognize that, like, they're going to that church for like a specific thing, and it's called like companionship. So you find people that are awesome and you want to be around them. I've met pastors that are the coolest dudes ever, the coolest dudes. And I recognize you just have to like look at that. Like I've made a personal connection with somebody as a human being, and because I'm looking through it in this like visor of like religious Christianity or whatever, I'm painting this guy as like a good spokesperson for the religion, even though you don't need it. You just need to know that guy's a good guy. So, and I think people really look at church in the wrong perspective, because they're going there to like be with people and talk to a guy that they really like. And since that guy's this like talking about God in a way that like helps you and verifies your beliefs, like you automatically become friends with them, and you don't question anything because this guy's so cool and he's talking about it. It's just such a weird dichotomy between people, and they don't realize it's just the reason is because you met somebody cool.
Right. Yeah. And if I can remember what my thought was, it was basically just that, no, you're good. I
brain fart.
Solid gold up to that point. When I talk, it's going to ruin it. But like it basically was one of those deals where like there are issues that I have with Scripture. Mm-hmm. There are issues that I have, and that I battle with, like, I mean, the whole Jesus forgiveness thing. Everybody loves that, it's
of course
it's perfect. Yeah. I mean, you can come to Jesus wherever you're at, and you can do all this good stuff, and he's going to forgive you of your transgressions,
all the terrible things you've done.
Sure. Right. But then again, there's like, well, man shall not lay with a man as if he lays with a woman,
and there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth.
And there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth, and you will go to hell for fucking up, and like all this stuff, and I struggle with that. I struggle with that all the time. And, sometimes I'm more like, Scripture's right and I'm wrong, but it doesn't really change kind of where I'm at, like in the sense of like, I don't feel like there's any reason to hate on somebody because of their sexual preference
especially when you consider that, this is stuff from, 2,000 years ago. Things have changed a lot in the last 2,000 years, obviously.
And I get accused of not being spiritual enough, but it's one of those things where it's like at my core, because my wife used to always say that, like you would make a way better atheist than Christian,
Yeah.
but I still have that belief in the sense that I do feel like there was.
That's important in doubting Thomas.
Well, yeah. I mean, I feel like there was answered prayers. I feel like there were, there's enough evidence for me on an emotional level for it to be. Yeah, dude,
that's something that like those guys say to me all the time too. And anybody in that thing is like their proof is like an answered prayer or something miraculous happened to them. And I don't know how you can get past like why couldn't that have just been a coincidence?
Well, like, and I can't either. Like a lot of the times I doubt myself. I say that was just fucking coincidence, or I planned it that way. Yeah.
Me and Travis had a discussion. We were talking about how people will find 2 quarters in their driveway, and they'll need that 2 quarters. They look at that as like, oh, well, it's miraculous because I just found 2 quarters on my driveway. How else would I get those 2 quarters? And it never occurs to them like, well, some dude could have dropped 2 quarters. That could have been the worst thing to happen to him because he needed 2 quarters too.
Right, that was his lifeline.
Yeah, but like, there's so many people that look at those 2 quarters as like this sign, and then like Travis's dad passed away from cancer, and that prayer didn't get answered.
Right.
So like
the big stuff doesn't get answered, but the little shit does. Yeah.
It never, and the biggest stuff never does. Like, I don't know anybody that can verify medically that like something has been completely healed. And if they have that evidence, dude, bring it, because you're going to be like famous. You're going to be so like peer-reviewed studies would love that. Like any scientific paper that you could show a miraculous like video of cancer like being shrunk by nothing, you're going to win every award there is.
You're going to be the man. Yeah,
and you're going to get the $1 million from James Randi.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love James Randi.
James Randi is the shit, dude. I love that guy.
I actually had to ask about the Neurosis. I think it's pronounced Jarbo. Is that correct?
Yeah, the split.
Yeah. I wanted to get your opinion on that because that was like a really like left turn for me. I was kind of curious on what you thought about that.
Well, so I look at like music maybe in a different way because we've gotten so much shit for taking left turns.
No, I like left turns.
No,
that's
never.
That's like the most important thing to me. I want you to stretch the barriers. Like I love that. That's incredibly important to me.
So like for me, usually what ends up happening is like I'm a Neurosis fan. They've already won me as a fan. So whenever they do anything that's not weird, I'm like kind of taken aback because I'm like expecting them to do weirder stuff. So when I listened to that, I'm totally bought in. The only time I think I ever get lost on anything is when it's faked. Like anytime somebody's like, and dude, ZAO did it too. Like I think there were like records we did that we didn't have our full heart in. So that's the only time I'm ever like, okay, I'm not going to like something is if you can really tell that there wasn't like 100% put into it. So to me, like anything Neurosis does, you can tell they always put 100% into it. And yeah, like I wasn't like, that split isn't something I listen to very regularly, but I respected it enough that like I still liked what they did. And I think what's really cool about what they did, and we take sort of that map too, because it's a split that's like kind of just like an EP. So I think what we're going to start doing is like when we have these weird left turn songs, we're going to end up putting EPs out or 7 inches out of it. Full length records are going to be like more of a consistent piece. But anytime you do something weird, if you put it out as an EP, I'm totally in, because then it's like, hey, here's a weird thing you're not like going to be totally committed to as a record.
You don't think the band's going to sound like that from now on? Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's not like it's something that they just wanted to do. I'm glad that they do that stuff. Like I said, it was not my favorite Neurosis stuff, but I totally respect it and like that they did it.
Isn't 2017 great where you can just do that?
Yeah. And that's like, I'm surprised it took this long for bands to start. Like, I don't know why. I don't know what. I mean, obviously, the industry did it, because like you go in these record cycles all the time. You have to do all this stuff. But I love how like music's kind of been taken back by the artist, and we're just doing what you want. Like,
yeah, I totally dig that. Oh, and by the way, my wife is gonna steal that print in the background with the elephants. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. My wife is insane about all of that stuff. We actually, our zoo here just got a baby elephant, so every year we go like to the zoo countless times because she has to see the elephants.
Same thing with my wife.
Yeah. I'm in, dude, because elephants are like, it's almost like looking at like a prehistoric animal, because they're so just different from anything that you would normally see.
They're like, big and deliberate.
Yeah. Dude, and like I love giraffes. Looking at all that stuff. Just like we're all pretty big animal people. So
yeah, same in my household. No, I'll put it this way: for our my wife and I's wedding cake, we had for the bride, it was actually a elephant. And I was, and the groom was a pig.
Did you get married in Turkey or something?
Sounds pretty accurate, though, right?
No, yeah, I'm totally the pig, and my wife remembers everything. So, ta-da!
Perfect. Yeah,
that's awesome. Dude, well, we did that, like the cake that. What is it? The one cake that you take home and eat? I forget. What they call that cake here.
There's a certain layer of the wedding cake you're supposed to eat on your first anniversary.
It's like usually the top layer, and you freeze it for a year. And then eat it. Yeah.
We had 2 elephant, like elephants made out of like. It wasn't like a figurine or anything. It was like made out of the like frosting or something.
Oh, that's awesome!
And we have them frozen in our freezer still. We got married in 2000. Yeah, we got married dude, what is it, 2005?
Wow.
Oh no, yeah. I've been married longer than you 12 have, buddy.
Years, dude. How do you know there's how do you know there's not like $200 in there? Yeah, like, I'm just saying, like that's what we found out. We waited just a year, and I'm a fat guy, so I love cake, So I was like, let's do
fat
this.
Has nothing about liking cake, man. It's all about metabolism.
Yeah, right. So like
cake or death.
We were surprised that there was actually money baked into the cake. Like we were like, holy shit! Like who would have even? That was the furthest thing from my mind when I busted that cake open.
I didn't have any money in mine. All I had was
neither did I.
Cake and more icing.
There could be like $1,000 in there. You never know.
Shit, I would have. With all the
now Scott's thinking about cake.
Yeah, I was gonna say all the debt we accrued on our honeymoon.
Money.
Yeah, I gotta go, guys. See ya. Yeah.
Yeah. My wife and I, we're total like nerds, and we still act like we're 12 years old. Our honeymoon was in Disney World.
Nice.
We've been trying. Like, I have an 8-year-old, and we really want to. It's just, dude, it's so expensive.
It really is. Like
it's like $400 a ticket, man. It's insane.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, no, we actually we know, like, we go to Disney World every other year, and
oh wow,
yeah, we actually we don't eat out. We don't, like, everything we buy is like 75% off. Like, it doesn't matter if it's food or clothing, because we save and scrimp every cent to make sure that we can go to either Disney World or, like, we go on a cruise with our kids.
Or Jeff can buy new
Here, eat these lima beans. Yeah.
Oh, no, the speakers, that's a totally different thing, man. I buy, sell, and trade nonstop, man. I'm a total audiophile. Like,
so let's talk about that, because there's something that I've been meaning to get off my chest since we did the ZAO episode.
Here it comes.
How I had said that the Fear doesn't sound as good as all of the other records, and that I didn't like it as much.
All right, me and Jeff are gonna duck.
Now that was before. That was before. That's why I did this long distance. We didn't drive up there, I had talked a lot of shit on the Fear, and like, let me be 100% clear. I have no issue with the material on the Fear.
Nobody,
like, I love the songs. I love the songs, But when I was listening to it, and I think I even admitted that I had that shit ripped at like 96K or something, because I didn't have enough hard drive space to put all my music on there. And
no joke, Scott. Back in the day when iPods first came out, Dan gets a Lenovo laptop, rips all his music, and drives down the highway in his car with the laptop plugged into a cassette adapter.
Believe
at 96K.
Man.
Shit happens. Hey, you're still alive. I gave you tons of rides during that. Okay,
I am a better person.
But so I used to bitch about the Fear. It doesn't sound as good as the records because Steve Albini fucked it up or whatever. Because if you listen to its original cutting in utero, it sounds like shit too. So about 2 months ago, Jeff gets me he procures for me in trade for some Nintendo games. He trades me this really nice set of speakers and like an actual audio mixing amplifier.
Okay.
And so I listened to the Fear on that, and like, holy shit. Like, it's like a completely different experience. Like, 100%. Like,
you're still listening to it through MP3 or CD, right?
No, I'm listening to it on CD. Unfortunately, there's no vinyl copy that I know of.
And that absolutely fucking destroys me, because if that record could be, we actually did that record to tape, okay?
Hell yeah.
I believe it, yeah.
We have the master tape, so we could have it legitimately mastered for vinyl. It wasn't mastered for vinyl. It was only mastered for CD at the time, because we just did CDs of it. Vinyl, nobody cared about vinyl in 2006 or whatever. We did, because that was like our whole...
This guy.
Yeah. One guy did, yeah.
No, these two right here. Yeah.
Yes.
Dan and Jeff did.
Good. Because you guys know you know what you're doing.
Yeah, well, because that ambience is important. Like, even if you can't physically hear it, it changes everything else. It's very, very important.
Jeff's going to do 20 minutes on vinyl. I'm going to go take a piss.
Yeah. Well, like, even
don't get me started.
Even on a wave.
Love you, dude.
think about it this, like, I don't know how people don't recognize this. Number one, once you put something to a CD, you've just compressed it. So you're losing the highs and you're losing the lows.
Yep.
Vinyl keeps all of it.
Right.
And something that I thought was crazy, I didn't realize this, 180 gram, bullshit. You don't need it to
that doesn't matter. Yeah.
It doesn't do nothing. No. Like, so as long as you're getting an actual representation of what the band recorded if you have it taken from tape to vinyl. Now, people do Pro Tools and then they compress it anyway. So
if it's from CD to vinyl.
I was going to say, my only argument for that, Scott, is if you recorded it digitally, then there's no reason to listen to it on vinyl. But if you've recorded analog...
Yeah, that's actually, believe it or not, that's actually the reason why I became a Lenny Kravitz fan. He is such a huge proponent of analog. He's shaking his... But he is.
I want to hear this.
A lot of the like Pro Tools is getting so much faster now, and their bit rates are getting to a point where like soon
are they up to 36 now? I think.
Yeah, like it's crazy. So you're going to be able to.
You'll have lossless audio soon.
Yes. So once they do that and they put that to vinyl, then you're fine. But yeah, so Fear. A couple things about Fear. One, you're nobody's still hearing it correctly. It's not on vinyl and you're not getting the full, because when you hear that on vinyl and you turn it up, it's going to sound like you're at the studio with us, period. Second, that record was fucking recorded live.
Right.
Yeah,
like,
it was.
I was in a room, Marty was standing beside me, and Jeff was in another room, and we played the songs. It wasn't like, I literally, we did it all, we recorded it all together, and then if you watch the DVD, there's a scene where I'm down at doing the guitar by myself.
Yeah.
That wasn't me fixing anything. That was me doing the other stereo guitar. So we recorded that totally live. We never went up and fixed anything. We never, we didn't punch anything. We literally started from the beginning of the song and played it and then finished it.
Right.
So, but I definitely think that the reason why people don't get the full aspect of it is because they're not listening to it. And it's our fault because we can't put vinyl out of it because we don't own it. Warner Brothers bought Ferret, so we can't even get it.
How long?
I don't know if
is that like a 10 years from now we could get a...
Maybe. Well, I mean, we're getting in the process now of talking to these people, and we're going to try. Warner Brothers is completely insane to talk to about it because they want you to. It's like $40,000 pretty much because you have to manufacture from their vinyl places.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's it's just out of we would lose money.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
If we would even just break even, we'd do it because I want that on vinyl so bad. So.
You should crowdfund that.
Let's say I'd buy it, so that's what, $30. we got that going on,
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man. Yeah, if you crowdfund it, man, you got 3 people in this room.
You got 90 right there, so that's you can cash that check. Yeah,
and I think there was something else you said that was kind of funny, but I think so. Funeral of God, when we did that one,
Steve Peck is my idol. That's what I said.
He loves Steve. Yeah, he does.
Oh, I'm not going to. Yeah, we'll talk later.
We disagreed heavily.
We officially found the thing Scott doesn't want released.
I love him. Steve's he's still one of my closest friends. I love that dude. But there was a lot of stuff you had to do on that record, regardless.
Sure.
Steve stepped in and dude, he did such a great job with what he had. So I'm so happy. But so Funeral of God was pretty produced, but there was a reason for that because Ferret signed us and Ferret automatically wanted to try to break into that rising metalcore scene, the Killswitch Engages and stuff. We never wanted to do that. It
definitely showed on that.
Yeah, but it was ZAO's big return, right? In a sense.
So but you can tell even that record is a little more formulaic, in verse, chorus.
It's rock. I consider it the ZAO rock record.
Song, yeah. And Rising End and Praise the War Machine and Last Revelation, we will never not play those songs.
Yeah, you can't fuck with those songs. They're great. Yeah.
So, but we would have made the Fear immediately. That was really where we wanted to go. Now I completely understand people. I think doing a live record's kind of tough, and I wouldn't want to do that necessarily again. And I think that's what makes the Well-Intentioned Virus record so awesome to me, is like, it's perfectly where we like that. It sounds good enough. I love the way the production works on that record, but we found a really good way to like make a record that's raw, but still like nice and crisp and clean,
listenable,
but still, but doesn't lose like the energy of like actually playing. But I really think like once you listen, if we had a vinyl version of The Fear on really good speakers, it would totally change people's perception of it. Because like for me, that's, other than the Well-Intentioned Virus, The Fear's my favorite ZAO record. And then now
I'm not the only one.
All right, it's three of us.
You said Parade of Chaos was your favorite record, which I don't get at all. But anyway,
no, I said that was my favorite one to listen to.
Okay.
Russ loves that record too. That record's weird to me.
It's super fucking weird.
It doesn't make any sense that I like it, but every time I start playing it, I'm like, okay, I'm in.
It's kind of dickish in a couple places. Like, it almost sounds like the band's fucking with me a little bit, but like, I don't mind it as much anymore, you know?
Well, when I said about like a band kind of like just like reeling it in and not being 100%, that record was kind of not 100%.
Oh, yeah.
Serious question, though. Is the singing Dan, Jesse, or both at the same time?
Most of it's Dan.
That's what I said.
Okay.
It sounds like Dan speaking voice,
then.
but singing, like that deeper register, almost like Johnny Cash kind of sound.
Yeah, most of it's Dan. Jesse did sing a little bit, but most of it's Dan.
That was my argument, was suspension had to be both of them, just the way that the tone was. But
yeah, no, that was all Dan.
Yeah,
okay, I'm wrong.
Awesome. All right, so
round one, Mr. T.
Point me, yeah.
I'm gonna get back to the whole Ferret Warner Brothers thing.
You're a good man.
Oh yeah. Have you guys talked with them about FLAC?
Well, like this is what is. It's just it kills me. Like you can't. They won't do anything. Like
period. So okay, so it's not just a vinyl thing. It's just they won't do anything unless you pay them the upfront cost. Okay.
They have no interest to revisit any of that stuff, and instead of like just giving it to us to like licensing it to us at a reasonable price, they would rather just try to make a ton of money from it. I don't know why. I don't know what's going on. It's crazy to me. Now, the Tooth and Nail stuff, the Tooth and Nail stuff's owned by Capitol. We have lines of communication with Capitol that I think like we could probably do more with that stuff, but the Ferret Warner Brothers thing is just...
Yeah, I was hoping that, to get... there's the whole loss, because FLAC is a digital... it's a lossless audio version.
What is the file size? Isn't it like...
It's huge.
It's huge. But
where MP3 would be 1 meg per minute, FLAC is like 10 per minute, roughly.
Yeah, it's like it's 50 to 60% larger than MP3, if I'm not mistaken.
So FLAC though is still smaller than a WAV file, right?
Yes.
Yeah, FLAC is a lossless audio format though, but it is digital. But the way the algorithm works is they can actually compress it without it becoming the audio itself becoming compressed. It's still a lossless audio format.
A 30 meg WAV file becomes a 15 meg FLAC.
Wasn't it like they compress like the silence?
No, it's actually even better than WAV because it is considered
data.
lossless. It's actually lossless. So it's like the same thing as vinyl in a digital version.
But here, this is so...
Stick with my vinyl.
When the Well-Intentioned Virus is, you can get it FLAC on Bandcamp or whatever.
Or maybe
shit. I know.
Done.
Yeah, you can get...
Sorry, man. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, because when I got the vinyl, there was a download that I could get FLAC or MP3 or whatever.
Yeah, you can get lossless. But the thing is like, it's coming... That FLAC file...
look at that. Hey, did you see that?
Yeah. I almost wore my shirt that came with that, but I was like, that's fucking lame.
Yes, that's on the top of my stack.
All right. Let's get something very, very clear here. We're total fanboys, so we're very happy that you're gracious enough to appear on our...
I told you never to go full fanboy.
Well, for me, it was like one of those, like, I was like, I need to drink a lot and just focus on Neurosis, because if not, I'm going to turn into like that... Do you remember when you guys did Liberate? Like, that was awesome. Like
like the Chris Farley show?
Right,
Dude,
yeah.
Totally, man.
And it was the Chris Farley show. It was the best thing ever. And she dude, this person didn't even know our song titles. Like it was like literally the Chris Farley show, and me and Dan laughed afterwards. It was
That's
so
rough.
awesome.
Yeah,
because I'm thinking like, hey Scott, so you remember when you made that record called Blood and Fire? Actually, that was Brett. Oh, that was awesome.
Yeah, that wasn't me. I might have to put you guys on hold a second because I think there's some stuff on the floor. So let me clean this up.
Yeah,
I'll put you guys on hold. Just hang on.
dude, I could not get it any more than I get it.
Yeah, we've all been there, man.
Dude, everybody loves new metal now. It's hot now.
Well, yeah, now that Chester Bennington offed himself.
He went from being the worst musician ever to he's the voice of our generation.
Well, I will say this. You know, we might poke a little fun at him. We may not necessarily like all the releases from Linkin Park.
Definitely.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's agreeable for all of us. I mean, Hybrid Theory was pretty fucking amazing. When Diamond, I mean, obviously, there's
every song was a hit.
Yeah, it really was. But nobody should ever go out like that. I mean, I know Chris Cornell went out like that, and then he
did. They determine his was a suicide?
Cornell's, yeah.
He hung himself.
He hung himself, and he was full of.
Well, I thought they were like questioning whether or not that, but then they released.
Yeah,
that
they did.
Himself.
But the toxicology said that he ingested some negative things that make your body do weird things and make you think and feel different things.
Oh wait, Scott's back.
Yeah, almost.
Hey, dude, your ceiling is amazing.
Yeah,
I'm digging the fuck out of that ceiling.
Yeah, I was about ready to go deep on the whole Chris Cornell, Chester Bennington thing right when you got back online. I have a.
You have a conspiracy theory?
No, I really don't.
He has legitimate sadness.
Yeah, I really do. I mean, I lost somebody really, really close to me about 6 months ago to suicide, and it's
okay.
I know a lot of people thinking, like, sack up and be fucking tough.
Just nut up, man. Just take a walk and nut up. Yeah, whatever. Fuck those people.
Walk on home, boy.
You can't. You don't say the same thing to somebody who has cancer. You don't say the same thing to somebody who has AIDS or somebody who has Parkinson's. Mental illness is a real thing. The problem is that it's difficult to physically see it. Whenever somebody has AIDS, you can tell because their autoimmune system doesn't work right. You can tell when somebody has cancer because of the treatments that they're going through. Mm-hmm. But whenever somebody's got a mental illness, I mean, it's just as real. The problem is that it's hard to see the problems. Can you pause the music, Joe? Yeah, sorry.
That was a great song.
It's a great song. It was kind of distracting me. That's all. I apologize about that. But mental illness is something that's really, really important to me because the person in my life who recently committed suicide was really important to me and somebody that was really, really close to me. And it was important to me in my formative years because I literally spent every summer at her house as a kid. So she was a very, very, very important person to me. But mental illness, gets shit on by a lot of people, especially in the metal community, because we're tough guys, and we're supposed to be bad motherfuckers. I'm like,
sure we are,
but yeah, I mean, but it's true. I mean, there's that whole persona that we're supposed to give off, about how badass we are. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, what's happened to us, whether it's mentally or it's something that, like cancer, AIDS, or whatever it may be. I mean, when it affects you, I mean, you can't help it. I mean, it takes over you, and it changes who you are. And whenever I hear all these people that are shitting on Chris Cornell and Chester Bennington about the things that they've done to themselves and the the family and the friends that they left behind, yeah, I mean, it sucks. I feel for that family and friends. But at the end of the day, I mean, they had an illness.
Yeah.
I mean, and people don't listen and realize that, yeah, that's a real thing. They just blow it off and say, nut up. And that's not true. That's not how it works. And,
no, you're totally right.
And you can't, and the people who say those things, and if they have somebody that's close to them that has, killed themselves, and there's something else that's to that person that, they're not being honest with themselves. That's how I feel. Like I recently listened to something about Chester Bennington, and somebody said that he just needed to nut up because he had 6 kids. Well,
think what it takes to leave 6 kids then too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you have to be like, to get to the point where your only way out is death, and you're leaving a wife, 6 kids, friends, family. I can't comprehend that. So think about what it means to leave that.
Yeah. When you, yeah.
I just don't understand how people don't that. I think I said about it earlier. There was a documentary I watched that just destroyed me. I think it was called Boy Interrupted. Okay.
All right. I'll have to check that out.
It's unbelievable, because it really does show what meant, like, depression, mental illness, whatever you want to call it. It really showcases how it's probably, out of all of those diseases, is like one of the hardest ones to, like, actually cure. It's not curable. Just like, I mean, this dude, like, the stuff they did with this kid was just unbelievable. I mean, he talked about, like, killing himself when he was like 6 and 7 years old. It's just like I think they figured out he was bipolar, and he was on lithium.
Yeah,
they had him on.
Yeah, that's a bad idea.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, you're fine. I mean, I just kind of on your point, but if people really think like all it is just an easy, like, oh, just suck it up, like, you'd have no idea what you're talking about. You have absolutely zero idea, because it's so debilitating to these people.
It really is, and you're right. And bipolar is the toughest thing. Like, the person that I'm talking about, she was bipolar.
Okay.
And that was pretty tough. But the fucked up thing for her is that the therapist that she was seeing committed suicide. I'm like,
fuck. Okay.
I'm like, what kind of direction does that put everybody that he was quote unquote treating in?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I can't even trust what this person had told me.
Yeah,
2 weeks ago. Like,
right. And truthfully, ever since then, she was in a downward spiral. I mean, we tried everything: family support, friends, medication, therapy. When somebody's in that situation, there's almost nothing that you can do. I mean, like, we tried. I can't think, seriously, going through it, I can't think of anything that we didn't try.
And that's the sad thing, is like, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
There's really nothing. Like, most people say it's just a matter of when for a lot of these people. Because, like, you can do everything. You can literally you could give them, like, millions of dollars and a perfect life, and
they will find fault in it.
It still doesn't matter.
Right. And that's exactly where we were at. We literally didn't know. We didn't know what to do. And this was not the first time she tried to commit suicide.
Wow.
And the problem is that when you're the aftermath, I mean, that's the problem. I mean, everything we tried didn't work. We try to go back and we look at it. The thought process is, what else could we do?
Yeah.
It really makes you look at it from, hey, there's other people that suffer from the same situation.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
what can we do to help them?
Well, yeah.
And like, we're in St. Louis, and there's a family here in St. Louis, actually, I'm really familiar with them because that's actually was one of my wife's friends, was actually my wife's roommate in college, and their son committed suicide, and they went through everything. And my first thought was like, because it didn't affect me personally, didn't affect me directly, it was like, well, what the fuck was wrong with him? It doesn't affect you until it's personal.
No, I mean, I held the same idea of like, you just need to nut up, you need to do this or that, because I came from a very religious background, so I was taught that, it's the ultimate sin, you can never be forgiven for this and all that. And then when I was going through it a couple years ago, like, it started off as like I was working as a cable technician, and everybody fucking hates their cable company, right? So like, I was working from.
I love my cable company.
I was working from.
That's because you work for your cable company, like, bastard.
I was working from like 7 a.m. to 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. every night for like 35 days in a row, no days off, nothing. And I got so jaded because, like, at the end of the day, like, they still paid me so little that, like, I got to a point where I could be working that crazy ass shift, but, like, I would still at the end of the month be like negative $200 on my bills. So it was like, I'm working my ass off. I'm getting screamed at by these people day in and day out. And, like, I don't have bipolar disorder. And so, like, it wasn't even like, for me, it wasn't even like a weird thing. Like, it started off as like, well, my wife and daughter, because I only had one child at the time, and I remember I was like, my wife and daughter are, really struggling because, like, I'm working my ass off and I can't make it. I can't do it. And I'm not providing, so I'm not doing like the main thing that I'm supposed to be responsible for, as a man. And so originally it started off as like just weird little thoughts like, okay, if I accidentally grabbed a power line 2 feet up from where I'm working, they could cash in that life insurance policy and be set for life and not have to worry about, me going in and grinding it out day in and day out. And then, so that's, and the first time I thought that, I was like, well, that's stupid. Why would you think something like that? That's stupid or whatever. And then, like, when my wife found out that I was, using tobacco and, that wasn't like, it didn't really line up with like the Christian man that she had married and like all this stuff. So like in my mind, even though this wasn't true, it was like, well, my wife hates me and I'm not making enough money to do what I need to do. And I'm not doing anything creatively. I haven't done anything musically in years. And like, I'm just kind of this burned out person that doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. So, 3 weeks down from working that kind of schedule and not having any time to reflect and not having any time to myself, it was literally like this whole like electrocute myself and kill myself and then get all the money and all that. After a while, it became the only logical choice. It stopped being this dumb thought that I had to being
the only reality.
The only reality. Like this is, like if you want to be all Spock about it, this is the only logical thing to do in this regard. And so I ended up getting hospitalized for it because I got to a point where I ended up calling a supervisor like midday one day, just like totally out of nowhere. Like everybody thinks I'm fine. And then I just call out of nowhere and I'm like, I need to get out of here before I hurt myself or somebody else. Like this is going to get really bad. And then I ended up in the hospital, which was like probably the worst experience I'd ever had, which was like,
yeah, but you're also fucking lucky because a lot of people don't actually get to that point.
I mean, I think I was reasonable enough at that point to realize that what I was thinking was wrong. Like what I was thinking was fucked up. And so I was like, I still thought that way and I still thought that it was completely legit. And I did go through that period where I was like, I'm just going to do it. I don't want anybody to know about it. And in my case, I was going to like make it seem like an accident. So like nobody would have had a bad thing to say about me afterwards, But it was just one of those like really fucked up situations where I was like, I I don't know what else to do. And when I went to the hospital, though, I was treated like a criminal. Like from the second I went in, to the second I left, like they're talking to my wife about like signing my rights away as far as like they can hold me for as long as they need to hold me, which I kind of took as more of like they're just trying to collect a paycheck. They want to be able to transfer me to another facility and hold me there for X amount of days, and the bill's going to rack up, and all this stuff. And I didn't even get to speak to anybody about what I was feeling or about like what was going on with me until like, I think it was a couple days before they actually sent, and the doctor that I talked to was just like, I'm going to give you this medicine and you're going to feel better about everything. And
that's a difference.
And it's weird because like
that's a difference between a psychologist and a psychiatrist.
Right. And so like during that process, that was when I kind of just snapped out of it a little bit, like it's because my life had been interrupted to a point where I was able to kind of think more clearly. I wasn't stuck in that like same daily rut day in and day out. But like when you look at the hospital system and the way that suicide is talked about, it really, in a sense, it makes people...
It's taboo.
It makes people not want to reach out.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like when a famous rock star dies, everybody posts on their Facebook page like, oh, well, this is the suicide hotline and shit. And I can tell you, like, I've called the suicide hotlines. I've talked to these people. I've done all this shit, and I never ended that phone call feeling better about anything or feeling like, it really helped me. So like, and I think there's this certain stigma of they're like, well, why don't you just take some days off? And I'm like, well, where I work, there's no option for that. There's no way, because for whatever reason, people's TV and their internet is more important than like my mental well-being, and so.
And even if you get the days off, you can't, like, you don't get paid.
Right.
You're going to be taking days off, and like 4 days, say you take 3 or 4 days. Like if I did that, I don't make a bill that month then.
Right, yeah. You're calling the electric company being like, please don't turn it off. What's the minimum amount I can pay to get it, And so like that was for me like the biggest thing. And I had talked about this a little bit on a previous episode, but it was like one of those things where the only thing that really kept me going is this idea of I am more than what I am right now. Like I felt like a real husk, of a person, but I was like, let's look at the things that I'm into, I don't want to not be around to experience, the new Contortionist album, or I don't want to be not around.
Oh yeah.
We talked about that. We were like, you think we're fans?
Is amazing.
You think we're ZAO fanboys, but we're like super like Contortionist 1,000%, because I remember listening to their album Language, and it was like I had to listen to that every day after the whole suicide thing.
Yeah, and Dan's not really joking about that. That's what saved Dan. That's truthfully what saved me too. I mean, after the person I was talking about, after her committing suicide, and like Dan's like, hey, you should check this out. He had no idea what was going on in my personal life, and he's like, just check this out. And I'm like, wow. I mean, I can connect with it. It makes me feel good. It makes me feel like a human being. It makes me feel alive. Right. It makes me feel like I have a life worth living.
Well, and I also had the new ZAO record that I was waiting on, So it was one of those like,
absolutely.
one of those like, so good job. I mean, like perfect timing,
Yeah, absolutely, man. 2016 was super, super. Well, 2015 and 2016 were super important for both of us. So.
Well, that was my recovery, man.
Yeah, you did a good job.
It sounds really stupid in the sense of like, oh, you're not going to kill yourself because you want to listen to a new album that comes out.
That sounds cheesy,
sounds really fucking
truth.
Dumb, but like in a certain sense, it was like, I don't want to miss anything either. And like maybe that's if I had bipolar disorder, I might not have felt that way in that moment,
Well, think about too, like it sounds like to me that you were more of a situational depression.
Absolutely.
Than like a chemical imbalance.
For sure, yeah.
And so just that alone, look how close you came. So think about it,
super close, yeah.
Dude, when people have like a legitimate chemical imbalance that they couldn't reasonably think that I want to be here for my kids. I want to be here for the next whatever record. Like, man, just situational depression alone is scary. So, dude, and it's like to me too. I think the most important thing, and I don't know if this helps really people that have chemical imbalance, but just knowing when you get, like, for me, like, I listen to a band, and like most of the time the dudes in there, if they're real people, you're going to feel like I'm not alone.
Yeah.
That's really like important.
It really is. Like, I'm not alone in this like weird situation that has put me in a point where like I would be willing to grab a power cable, because like there's dudes out there that they feel exactly the same way as I do. And
yeah, I mean, even that ZAO DVD, it was before that, I watched that way before, almost a decade before that. And, but I remember, like, because I had dealt with depression when I got, when things got rough, and people want to call me a coward for that or whatever, but like, I remember listening to Dan's whole thing about, before he joined ZAO and how he'd had all these friends and that had committed suicide, and, that he was part of that group of people, and that, it was a reality for him as well. That was like really, that affected me a lot and actually helped me deal with depression a lot, during those times, whenever it was like really bad. And, but yeah, it's that whole feeling of not being alone and not feeling like, but like, and I couldn't believe it, because like I was one of the people that I was like, I guess the success story, in the sense that like I did reach out and I did talk to people about it. Yeah. But the experience was so bad. I was like, I totally understand why people don't. Yeah. Like, I totally understand why people don't. Oh, cool. Thanks. But yeah, I totally understand why people don't reach out and why people don't care, and why it's so like, it's such a stigma, because everybody wants to compare themselves to everyone else. Like, I listen to other podcasts and I think, well, I could do that better. Or I could, do this interview. Like, and I feel like it's the same thing with suicide, because like people are like, well, that's just the ultimate cop out, and it's this and that and this and that. And I know we're going in circles, but like this whole Chester Bennington thing was like a really big deal. Not as much to me personally, but holy shit, I got so many phone calls after that happened, part of it was just like, hey, are you guys going to do a Linkin Park tribute episode or something? And I was like, I don't know, it's not really our bag, but
yeah, like, we probably will though. We're not tribute.
We might do it. Yeah.
Well, we may not have to talk about it because we're kind of doing it.
Yeah, we're kind of doing that here, so maybe we bit the bullet on that. But like, it's
so thanks for putting up with our crap, Scott.
Right.
Oh, dude, when Chris Cornell killed himself, like my wife, that was her favorite musician, since she was 13. And we saw Soundgarden when they released King Animal. So like right when they came back.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, I love Soundgarden, and I was like super excited because we're pretty decent friends with like Dillinger Escape Plan dudes.
Right.
And I'm like, man, if like Soundgarden comes back, like I might be able to call like Greg and maybe like meet them.
Right. Get a backstage pass. Yeah, sure.
Like, that's how we feel whenever you show up to Nashville, man. We expect to be backstage.
there we go.
This guy, yeah.
Yeah, so like seeing him do that was just like, dude, you were the success story of like Seattle, man. Because like all the other dudes that, like Lane Staley and like the dude from Mother Love Bone, I forget his name, Andy Wood, I think.
Yeah,
is that it?
Yeah, they're all gone. Yeah,
Andrew Wood. Yeah,
those guys. Yeah, like a lot of those guys end up doing that, and like Cornell kind of beat all of the odds, and like was this guy that was like getting into his like middle age, and he was like the middle-aged rocker that like survived. And dude, like I don't even know, like I get so angry because I'm like, is it really that he took too many Ativan and it like put him in a state where it was just, I can't do this anymore? Or was he really just thinking that he was going to do this and it was a plan the whole time? Like,
yeah,
right.
It's impossible to know, really.
We'll never really know, but yeah, since the person who committed suicide, they're actually related to me. And it turns out that, some of this stuff is hereditary. So I actually I'm on medication. My life's infinitely better because of it. But yeah, you never know. But stuff like that's, I mean, it's really scary because it only takes 1 weak moment.
Oh yeah.
1 weak moment, and it not only does it end your life, and it changes everybody else's world. That was the hard thing. Like I work with a couple of people that are like they worship at the altar of Chris Cornell.
Okay.
And it really affected my professional life actually. Mm-hmm. The people I work with regularly every day, they're like, fuck, one of my heroes is gone. Like, well, a lot of people, some people just say, like, oh, fuck him, he's fucking all these other people up. Well, I'm like, well, there's a whole lot more to the story. We may never know what it is, but I guarantee you there's a whole lot more to it. You can't just like, just write it off and just say that, tough shit. It doesn't work that way with mental illness.
Think about people put themselves in like their own perspective and they completely like wash away anybody else's.
So Chris Cornell, I'm trying to think. I'm gonna like get my thoughts. So like the people that like can't stand gay people or hate gay people, they're like religious people or anybody, like people that are like, gay people, it's a choice and blah blah blah. Like, which it's absolutely not. And it's proven it's not. But like, think about it this way: can you choose to be gay? Like, if you think it's such a choice, like, why are you not choosing it then? Like, why are you?
Right. Yeah.
Can you go do that? So it's the same thing. Like, put yourself in that position. Like, think about what it must be like that you have come to the conclusion and decision that the only step you can take is to end your life, and you're gone. Like, you're going to be gone from your kid's life. You're going to be gone from your wife's life. You're not going to be able to experience things anymore. You can't fathom that. So like, why would you pretend like, if it's easier for you to nut up or whatever, why do you think that dude can do that? Like, what makes you think that he's anything like you? And what gives you the right to pretend like he's anything like you, that he can just, well, like, I have sad things happen to me, so like I get through it. Dude, everybody's different. You know what I mean? And you don't have a mental illness. You don't have any kind of illness, like a brain illness or whatever. And who's to say he even, like, whatever was wrong or whatever happened to him? Just people that can't understand other people have different perspectives in life. To me, it just drives me crazy. Like, I empathize with human beings. So like, I never I try to put myself in people's shoes, and I never expect them to be whatever I think that they're going to be the same way. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I just became a big fan of yours, Scott, just because of that. Seriously. I mean, that's exactly how I feel. I mean, life is all about perspectives. And you can't just look at it from your own. There's literally, billions, because every human being has a different outlook on life. So you can't pigeonhole anybody. And it's actually the reason why I'm not a big fan of labels when it comes to music as well. Is because I'm like, it's music. Either I connect with it or I don't. You know what? And just because I don't connect with it doesn't mean that Dan won't. Dan might love it. And
well, if I love it, I'm right and you're wrong, right? So like that's how that works. Yeah,
that's why I keep my opinion to myself when I look at all these weird industrial metal bands out of Switzerland, because I do
like them.
Yeah.
Well, me. Yeah.
One guy does. Yeah. So there's that.
Cybreed, Clarfield. Yeah, I love that kind of shit.
There you go, dude.
Yeah, it's
dude, I just think about like how different people are in their tastes in food. Like, everybody has different tastes. So, and I never understood that thing too. I think like the idea of a music reviewer should just be abolished, because like, you're honestly, don't give me crap. Like, it's your opinion. That's all it is. It's not.
That's why I stopped doing it. That was my big thing for years. I was trying to make it as a music reviewer, and after a while, I was like, it doesn't fucking matter what I say. Whether you like it or don't like it is really all that matters in the end. Like you cut through the beef of all of it, and it's like, I either like this or I don't like it. That's the only point of a review. Yeah.
Because you can break down, you can like look at the aesthetics, right? And you can be like, well, this guy didn't play the guitar riff good, or like the drummer was off time here, or any of that stuff. But sometimes, so what? Like, I don't know if you guys ever listen to Swans.
Oh yeah,
they're not for everybody.
Sure, yeah,
obviously. But like, are you going to tell a Swans fan like that's legitimately right there? That's like not music. No, it is.
Well, and I've listened to that seriously my whole life about ZAO, at least since 2002, like people are like, that sounds demonic. And I'd be all like, well, if we're talking about Blood and Fire, it's definitely not, but then, like later ZAO albums where they're like, well, I read the lyrics online and it doesn't sound very Christian to me. And I'm like, well, that's because it's not, it's just one of those, like, it's a straight up, like, I don't feel betrayed because the band doesn't consistently deliver Christian lyrics. But like, I think what's more important is that like, it's not important necessarily that like what you listen to confirms your worldview as much as it's just like, this is where it's at. It's real. It's what's going on now with that singer, that vocalist, that guitarist, that drummer, like that. It's an emotional outlet for them as a person. And like you have to be really spiritually immature to say that, well, my spirituality is based on what this band's doing more so than it's based on like what I'm doing. Because like if you're a diehard Christian and you believe that 100% and you don't agree with everything that's in ZAO lyrics or whatever, that should still be okay. If you still like the band, then who gives a shit what they're singing about necessarily? Because like, I listen to shit like Slayer and Deicide and stuff, and like obviously that really contradicts a little bit with my worldview, but like it doesn't bother me in the sense that it bothers everyone else apparently.
Think about like Slayer, for example. Tom Araya is like a Catholic.
It's a little fake. Dude, it's a little fake.
Goes to church. Yeah, like he goes to church, and then Kerry King is like me, and he is really angry for some reason about it, and
he's more pissed off.
He writes lyrics that are pretty against everything. But I guess that's another thing too for me. Like, I'm kind of I'm not offended is a bad word, but like I think when people do things just to like cause someone to like have a knee-jerk reaction, I think you're doing that like it's kind of a shitty thing to do. You're not really like, you're not in like giving somebody knowledge or informing them. You're kind of you just want to make them offended or whatever. And for me, like, no matter what ZAO does, regardless of where our beliefs are or any of that stuff, like my purpose and what I'd want to see is I want to just give people our perspective and give them like, here's why we think the way we do, and here's something to maybe like help you think outside of your box. That to me is way cooler than like Cradle of Filth making Jesus as a cunt shirts.
Right, yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's all to make money, right? In like the end.
It's the shock value.
Even that. Yeah, it's like a shock thing. It's more, there's not really substance there. It's more or less this to like cause like, some dude that thinks Satan's cool is going to get your shirt, you know what I mean? Which is like hilarious to me too. I don't even understand that thing. Like most people, if they don't believe, like, if you don't like Christianity, cool. Like, why are you like cool with like part of Christianity? If you're like into Satan, it's just so dumb. But like Satanists are essentially just atheists that
a little extra vocal.
See, I don't but like it's weird because like I don't disagree necessarily with some of the aspects of Satanism, like the modern aspects of it, because it's not just like anti-God, like we're gonna take all the Psalms and rearrange the words and and all that.
It's more
but like
anti-authoritarian.
Like I like the idea of like problem with authority, make your own decisions, contribute to humanity as you see fit, like that sort of stuff.
Well, and I love seeing the satanic temples and satanic churches like fighting against all the like freedom of speech and freedom of religion stuff. So if you like, when the public is paying for like a state, or like the state capital, like the state itself cannot prefer a religion over any other one. So you can't have the Ten Commandments there. You just can't do it. And I love how they're throwing back the Baphomet statues in their faces. It's not even that they want those statues there. It's just that they don't want any statue there.
Right. If you guys are as serious about this as you say you are, then you should have no problem putting, Baphomet statue in your capital, like you should be fine with that because you're supposed to be celebrating diversity in religion, and of course, you've got a whole bunch of old white guys that are, super Baptist or whatever, that are like, no, it's only okay if it's my religion,
And that's the thing too, like, don't those people recognize, like, they're living in a time right now where, like, American Christianity's kind of got a pretty good stranglehold on everything. Like, what happens in like 150 years if like Islam becomes more Americanized and that becomes the more main religion? I don't want to see any of them I don't want to see a theocracy on anything.
No.
So there's
it
reason. It
flies in the face of what our country was founded on.
Theology and government should not be intermingled.
Absolutely.
The answer usually is they're going to be dead, and they don't care what the answer is in 150 years.
It's like the whole gay thing, which we talked about earlier. Like,
Joe just hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, but it's like the whole gay thing. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, you want to impose these rules or whatever, you want to define like what marriage actually is or whatever, but like what it really boils down to is I don't like it, I'm uncomfortable with it, I don't get it, and it's like that's not a good enough reason because I think the question that needs to be asked is, who is it hurting?
Well,
is it hurting somebody?
If they're really into like biblical traditional marriage, they might want to read their Bible again, because traditional marriage is like David married like 50 women.
Yeah, no shit, right?
There's
move to Utah.
Traditional marriage was never just a man and a woman like everybody thinks it is. Like I said, everything's like they've Americanized Christianity. They're not even. I don't think most of these people even have ever read their Bible, so they probably have no idea really what's in there. Like the same thing with all
these.
It's
easy to show up on Sunday and just agree with whatever's said. Yeah, sure.
That's what it is, dude. And like everybody talks about the 10 Commandments. Like, number one, that was Moses. That wasn't Jesus. I don't think they understand that. Moses gave those to people. There's just so much stuff that it baffles me. It baffles me that people don't know.
Well, that's an excuse to treat like a fellow human being like shit. Like, that's the part that like really disconnects with me is like, I feel like you can agree and disagree with somebody, but like there's a lot of shit talk, especially online, where everybody's like a keyboard warrior and can like, articulate whatever it is they think their worldview is. But like, if I'm talking, like, let's say I'm offended by the fact that you don't believe in God, like I'm personally offended by it, I'm not going to fucking say that to you at a show. I'm going to fucking get on Facebook and trash the fucking shit out of the band because that's the easier route to take.
Oh, dude, we had we had somebody do like Facebook message us.
Oh shit!
And they basically were like, because we did that like reverb pedal with abominable pedals, or abominable electronics.
Yeah,
and that Patrick, the guy that owns it, is one of the coolest dudes ever. Dude's super anti-Christian. Like, his pedals even say "enemy of God" on them.
Oh shit! So he's a Creator fan. Got it. Okay. Yeah. So, okay.
But and some dude messaged us and was like, "How can you?" First of all, it got on like a whole different topic because it like he started out like because that dude made a pedal called the Hate Stomper with Donald Trump's face, and like you can step on it and it's like his neck all ripped open.
I need to get
and the guy's like, "Yeah, it's sick." And the guy's like, "How can you call yourselves a Christian band and not respect the president?" And I'm like, "Oh man, this is gonna get bad."
I don't think that you've ever called yourself a Christian band.
Like, yeah, we never.
I don't remember that. Like maybe in like the old days with like Sean and like all that maybe, but like I don't remember the Dan Scott Russ era of ZAO ever saying that.
No.
Yeah.
And we basically came back to him, and we came to the point where we're like, "You haven't listened to our band for 15 years, have you?"
Clearly.
You have no idea what you're
rocking Blood and Fire and Splinter Shards pretty hard. Yeah.
Dude, you're just angry. You're just an angry dude, and we're not going to get through to you. Like, I even threw out like this guy was a veteran too, and I'm like, first and foremost, thank you for your service.
For sure.
Secondly, how can you respect a guy that deferred 3 times because he had a little toe hurt? Like, I don't understand. I just don't understand how these people do this. And we went back and forth, and the dude like supposedly had a ZAO tattoo, and I'm like, have you not listened to our band? Like, why would you get a tattoo if you don't like? We haven't been the band you think we are for at least 15 years. So it got a little heated, and that's like you said, it's like a guy on Facebook. What are we going to do? Like, tried to end it. We pretty much ended it like, look, we can agree to disagree. Don't listen to our band anymore. Totally
right,
cool.
Sure.
You know?
Sorry, like, I'm sorry I disappointed you, but it wasn't my intention. But I'm not going to like change myself to conform with like what it is that you've got. And that honestly, like, was ZAO what really attracted me to the band, even initially when I was more religious, even was the honesty.
Mm-hmm.
This idea of like, hey, guess what? Everything's not as cookie cutter as you think it is. You know, I mean, you look at like even, you know, I know like Pray to Cast isn't like your, you know, magnum opus, but like, you know, even songs like Suspension, you know, like, that's about like a really real topic. Like, you know, everybody's like, oh, well, you know, who actually, you know, strangles themselves while masturbating? Well, turns out that like a lot of people do. So like, you know, it's
David
one of those
Carradine?
things where like I totally get it, you know.
Well, dude, did you ever read about Michael Hutchins from NXS? That dude never did that. Until this year, I didn't.
Wow.
I thought that dude did it, and
that's crazy.
Basically, like, his ex-wife started the rumor because the reason he killed himself was because she wouldn't let him see his kids, and like her new boyfriend or whatever was Bob Geldof, the guy that was in Pink Floyd The Wall, and like did that Live Aid. Dude, he's like, I'm never letting you see your kids. So he like literally was just. He was a depressed.
He flipped shit. Yeah, understandably so.
He hung himself, and everybody's like, "Oh," and she's like, "Yeah, he liked to auto asphyxiate himself, and it was totally fake. And she made it up
bullshit,
just so she didn't get the blame."
A lot of people don't believe in karma, but I mean, Peaches Geldof, that's Bob's daughter. I mean, she's no longer with us.
Yeah.
I mean, how does Bob feel now?
Yeah, I look at it too. I don't necessarily believe in anything, but I think that the universe,
it's all connected.
Yeah, man, the stuff you throw out is going to come back.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
If you're like a crappy person, you'll eventually get that back to you.
I've seen evidence of that, you know, like, and it's. I got a buddy of mine that just recently got accused of child molestation. You know,
oh man,
and like, I know the dude like personally. I know that it's like completely off base.
It's bullshit.
But it's one of those things where it's like, no matter what he does at this point, it's gonna always follow him.
Yep.
And that's just like completely like, it just sucks. You know, that like it's at that deal, because like I went and visited him a couple weeks ago, and I hung out with him, and we played Nintendo games, and it was a lot of fun. And we watched like the Power Rangers movie and all that stuff, and we had a ton of fun.
Was it any good? I kind of want to watch it.
We liked it a lot.
Do you like the Power Rangers, Scott?
I have. That was a little bit after me.
Right.
Like,
if you like Power Rangers, go see it. It's exactly what you want it to be.
If you like a totally stupid premise, but like they own it 100%, you know, then it's cool, you know.
I think Scott's closer to my age.
It's not going to change your life. But
did you like the Transformers back in the day?
Well,
or He-Man.
Yeah, no. Like back in the day, that's like that was my stuff. Like I grew up on He-Man, Transformers, Thundercats, all that stuff. The Transformers movies, though. The first one.
Yeah, I'm talking about like
the cartoons.
Yeah, the cartoon movie.
Yeah, that was my. Yeah, oh yeah, dude, that's the best. They should have never made another movie.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, the first one was great. Yeah, I like that.
They kill everybody.
You'll be fine with the Power Rangers movie then.
You'll like it, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's just don't go into it thinking it's going to change your life. It's not the Godfather Part 2 or something like that, you know.
It's Bryan Cranston plays the part of a wall.
Yeah, then I saw that. That's pretty awesome. But like, I'm a big movie guy. Like I literally like, I personally get just shakes thinking about going to see Last Jedi. Like, I'm so excited.
Yeah, man, you should see you should see my theater room. It's completely Star Wars and nothing else.
That's incredible. And then, like, I just watched all the San Diego Comic-Con trailers. Like, the Justice League one looks pretty good.
Oh yeah, the JLA one looks really good, which I was not expecting.
Me too. Well, Wonder Woman, since Wonder Woman was so good, I had a feeling they were going to finally get back on track with
that movie. Really surprised me when I went.
You mean to tell me this whole time we had to take the movie away from Zack Snyder and it'll be good? Yeah.
Well, you know what?
All right.
Well, let's just look at, I hate to bring it back to like negative shit.
Look what happened. Yeah. Look what happened to Zack Snyder.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, his life is in turmoil right now with what's happened with his daughter. So
yeah, and oh my god,
that's rough. Yeah,
I couldn't even fathom. I mean, like, I have a 13-year-old at home, and I'm like, oh my god, if that, in a few years, if that's what happens to my kid, my life would be crushed.
Yep.
So I get it.
I wouldn't even be able to, like,
I wouldn't function.
Yeah.
Joe, can you change the music to not Pray to Chaos?
What do you want?
I don't give a shit. Just something.
I'm so glad I can't hear any of that music if you're playing that. Right.
Oh yeah. Joe's going crazy over here.
I liked Pray to Chaos, but it's what did you think about the fact that they just re-released the ZAO the early album? They re-released All Else Failed and all that.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that because that just popped up in Spotify.
I'm so happy. The guy that does Steadfast, I'm friends with Matt that runs Steadfast Records. I'm so happy he finally did it. I'm just really bummed out that he did it now, and he did it saying it's 2017, and now it's like the top on Spotify. Like, it looks like it's our new record. Like,
that's kind of shitty. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. I wish he would have maybe contacted us earlier and was like, "Hey, I want to re-release this. Can we work it out to where it doesn't take over the newest record spot?"
Right.
Spotify is stuff. It's not just you guys. I mean, stuff is notorious for showing up in Spotify for oh yeah, this is a 2017 release, and you go back. No, this is from 20 years ago.
95, 96. Yeah.
Relax.
Well, okay, so I'll say this, and I don't know if that'll make it feel better or not, but obviously as a ZAO fan, I understand that obviously the Well-Intentioned Virus is 10 times the record that All Else Failed was.
Yeah. I agree.
But it's not really fair either, because if you look at All Else Failed as a Christian hardcore record from the mid 90s, obviously it's great, Yep. But
dude, and it deserves people to hear it. I'm all for it being on Spotify. We talked to Mick, we talked to Roy, I hang out with Jesse pretty regularly now. He's actually coming up next weekend. We're going to go see the Neurosis Converge show. So that's
badass.
Nice. I like Jesse a lot. I don't know how hard it's going to be because I'd love to have him on for a discussion at some point. And
I think he'd be easy to talk. I mean,
I think he'd be down.
Yeah, he's totally different. And you know what? At the time, we were having so many issues. There was a lot of unknown mental illness.
Sure.
I think he was going through a lot of stuff that he never talked to us about.
Right.
And I think a lot of the drama and a lot of the stuff that happened in the band was 100% because of what he was going through, and he wasn't able to verbalize it to us.
He had a lot of issues that again, they weren't forefront, and even I said it, on the DVD on the ZAO episode, I said that even though he kind of came off a little rough at times, what he was actually saying wasn't really far off. It wasn't. I didn't necessarily disagree with what he said. It was the delivery, and I would love to talk to him sometime about some things, because I haven't been cryptic about the fact that he is still my favorite ZAO drummer. Which, don't get me wrong, I mean, I love Jeff. I really, that dude was...
I know you love me.
Was great. Not you.
I can understand.
Not you, understand. The other Jeff. Yeah.
Oh, the other Jeff. Okay.
For me, I think Jeff is technically any way I say this is going to suck. So
it's okay.
Jeff's like a legitimately technically better drummer. Jesse would probably tell that.
Oh no, I agree. Jesse has said it before. Yeah, I agree.
So like
100%.
Jeff was like, he like went to college for music. He's like a legit, insanely good, and his feel is really good. Jesse had one of the best feel drummer. Like the way he played was, and he wasn't like super technically proficient, but his rhythm, man, his like way that he like, his swing or whatever you want to call it as a drummer was just so good. And it's a bummer that he doesn't really play drums anymore, because I really think like he just was natural at like just the way he would hit. Like just, he was like one of those dudes like a Josh Freese or something, where like he just had the feel of how to play.
Yeah, I mean, I got lucky enough to see ZAO with Jesse one time. It wasn't with Dan, which was a bummer for me, but yeah, it really was. But I got to see that, and I still saw that, that kind of, like you were saying, like the feel and all
he just
that.
Has like, man, he has such a good way of like how he hit. He like was a solid hitter, and he knew how to like groove in a part.
Oh yeah,
real well.
Yeah.
That was going to be my question when you decided to bust our balls about our ZAO episode. I was going to ask you: is Jesse as naturally talented as the Lesser Lights of Heaven DVD would lead me to believe?
I think.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's really good. I think there was a lot of stuff about what people's perception of him was a little off. Like Jesse was, he didn't start really writing music until, he did write some stuff on self-titled music, but like he was essentially
I can tell that. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, so I think it was pretty unfair when he left. People would have, for some reason, think like, oh, well, ZAO's weird because Jesse's gone, or like even with ZAO's weird when Brett's gone. Like, dude, there's a cohesiveness to like Dan and Russ and me that I don't think. Whatever, like I'm just going off on whatever.
No, I get it. No. I want to bring it back to that though, because
incoming.
No, I want to bring it back to that because I get it. Because for me as a fan, it has essentially been the same.
Yeah,
since
really
Liberace.
has.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, sure, you switched out Jesse for somebody else like later on, but like. And, even as a fan, I remember, like, reading, I was in high school, and I read, like, Jesse wasn't going to be a part of the band anymore.
He's
and
a young whippersnapper over there.
I struggled with that, but then I was like, well, you know what, the next record's going to probably be really great. And I remember being, like, so on board that, like, whenever there was, like, the vocalist switch, I was like, it's probably going to be okay. Like, I remember, like, it's so funny, too, because I saw ZAO with Josh at the Creepy Crawl in St. Louis, and I thought that was okay. I didn't have any, it wasn't a bad show or anything. But then I went and saw, like, it was like, I guess it was like 3 months later after his Funeral of God, and I had seen ZAO at Cornerstone between those times. And I remember actually had a pretty lengthy conversation with Dan like before the show, and that was cool and all that. But like whenever I saw ZAO with Dan after Funeral of God came out, I was like, this is fine. I'm totally still on board. I'm still totally like surprised at what I hear. Cause like, I mean, even back then, I think the biggest thing was like hearing ZAO with like melodic vocals, like on top of it. And I remember thinking that was like a really big deal. And like you said, you're like, oh, well, the Funeral of God wasn't my best vocal performance. But, like, at the time, because it was all that I had, I was like, oh. But then I listened to, like, the singing on, like, the later ZAO albums, and I was like, yeah, it's okay, obviously it's a lot better. But, like, but, I didn't care about that at the time. I mean, we're not trying to sound like super fans or weirdos or whatever, but, like.
Yes, we are.
We loved the Funeral of God.
You realize, Dan, when you say that, it alleviates the point.
And it caused so many problems with me at church. much, you know, because like I'd be like, oh, I'm listening to this ZAO album, and they're like, well, it's called The Funeral of God. I'm like, well, you know, it's an idea. It's not like a thing that actually is going to happen, you know, like it's just this idea of like it's just supposed to like make you think or whatever, you know. It's not some like proclamation of like a worldview or something like that. And like, it was always really irritating to me that people didn't get that, you know, that like you just have to take it for what it is. You can't just say that like,
yeah. And like, dude, at the end of the record, it's pretty much like, it's not, how do I explain? It's like a bad thing that there is nothing there.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you like, it's kind of sad.
It has a moral message at the end of it. Yeah, like, you know, and I got really behind that. And then what's really funny, though, is like when I heard The Fear, I was like, this is more real. Like, even than what The Funeral of God was, you know, like, because The Funeral of God was great, but it was like this big lofty concept, you know. But like when The Fear came out, I was like, this is what ZAO actually is, you know, versus what you know, like, because I think a lot of Christian fans like really responded to The Funeral of God in a positive way, you know, and thought that like, okay, this is my Blood and Fire era ZAO again, you know. But then, you know, like The Fear comes out and you've got songs like Chubby Young Blondes and Hard Not to Shake with a Gun in Your Mouth and stuff like. And I remember like listening to that song especially. That's probably my favorite track off of The Fear is, you know, because it's like so like what I was going through at that time, you know, of like I had people like pushing me to go into like pastoral stuff, and I was like, I don't think I'm a good fit for that, you know. Like, and then being like,
no, you're not.
That's what you have to do. And I was like, well, the Bible says many are called but few are chosen, you know. Like, you know, and I remember that record being like my shining example of like, well, you know, I'm still really fucked up. I don't think I'm the person that you want to put in front of somebody, you know.
Well, dude, those are the people though I think that really should be doing it. People that don't want to do it. You know, like people that like are apprehensive, just like our politicians. I think people should be like,
yeah, I was gonna say religion and politics. I agree wholeheartedly.
Well, yeah, but the problem is, though, is you're not going to be you're not going to get the reception on that, because like at that point, if
not
you choose
necessarily,
to,
that's
no,
not,
but
that's
like
not
if
true.
you choose to be a pastor, that's your living, right? Like that becomes your full-time job. And like I'm the guy that's like, you know, well, I listen to satanic music, you know, on the regular, you know, more so than I listen to Christian music. And I don't always identify with people on the same level that I feel like a pastor should identify with people.
I disagree with you on that, Dan, because one of my best friends from high school, he's a pastor now, and he is everything that you're talking about right now. And
that's great, but like I was just worried about like way too concerned with financial stability that like it became kind of this, like if I go off and be a pastor, people are going to be like not into it. Because I did a youth group a while back. Like I led a youth group. Jesus. And like when I first started, I was like, all right, show of hands. How many of you guys are, you know, like members on Pornhub? You know, and they're like,
me?
You know, nobody was saying anything. I'm like, I've got my hand raised because I'm trying to be like real with everybody, you know? And like, it's like, you know, and then, you know, they go home and they tell their parents, and then their parents are talking to the lead pastor, and the pastor's got to be like, well, you know, Dan's got a very different way of approaching things than everybody else, you know? And like, I didn't mean for it to be weird. Like, my whole point was just that, like, I want to make sure that everybody in this group's being honest with everybody else, you know?
Yeah, it was the same thing with him whenever I said, all right, I bought Cold Chamber, who else did?
People don't want to be.
All did.
They like being they want the comfortable, like easy answers. They don't want the dark underbelly, and that's why I think our band's been shit on in that scene, because we point out some shitty stuff and people don't want to hear about that stuff, you know.
And then like xenophobe. I mean, how many fucking Christians flip shit over that? You know, even when it came out, they were like, what do you mean? Does that mean they don't support Donald Trump? You know, like it was like, well, that record came out a little bit. That song came out a little before that, but yeah. Like,
well, no, but that dude.
I wish this was all. I know we're doing a video right now, but I wish the audio podcast portion was in video. I love the roll of your eyes there, Scott. That was great.
Yeah. People, dude, I am absolutely perplexed at what's going on. And yes, that song, I think what was released in 2015, but it was me and Dan. You could really see a shift of people. You could really see those type of people, that worldview, that mindset becoming a lot more accepted as it went on and on and on. And I think there was this really scary backlash to like the liberal, like Obama supporting whatever, even though like I'm pretty left and I didn't really support him either, because he was doing just as much horrible foreign policy as like any of the Republicans were doing, but nobody talked about it because it was him. You can do a lot of stuff when people are scared, because when people are scared, they will not think rationally, period. And
makes me think of Star Wars.
Yeah,
it really does. Dude. The Emperor.
Yeah, I mean, when France had terrorist attack after terrorist attack, and even though none of that, like, ISIS takes responsibility for anything because they want people to think they're way, way bigger than they are.
That they're a legit organization, yeah.
So anytime some idiot would get a knife and try to stab people, or get a truck and try to run over people, they would claim it because it looks like they're way stronger, right? So, and dude, and this is the thing that I think is hilarious. Like,
well, it works because I had a friend of mine who lived blocks from the Bataclan.
Oh man!
And
wow,
his wife's from Norway. They moved to Norway like 3 months after the fact.
Yeah,
I mean, they were done.
Yeah, how can you can't blame people? They're scared. My big argument to all of this stuff is like when they talk about like we have to ban Muslims, and like, do they not realize there's like India has like how many millions of Muslims, and they don't do anything. Like, it's not that. It's like a totally different thing. And it's not even like I've heard, and I think the argument can be made very easily that it's not even religious anymore. It's like totally political. And when you bomb countries for 15 years, you're going to get blowback from it. It's just going to happen. And dude, like when you look at too, like people, like guys in Iraq, where these like the ISIS would come in and be like small, but they would be able to recruit, because what else are these people going to do? They go and like go to their families. Basically, we're going to either kill your family or you're going to join us. And they pay well. And
it's like, sign me up. Yeah.
Yeah. We went over there, destroyed all their infrastructure. And these people have like nothing to turn to, they have nowhere to go. So I mean, dude, and I'm just an idiot that plays guitar. So it's not like I have any answers, but you can do a lot of stuff with fear. And I really think, I mean, that when some psychopath gets up on a microphone and says, I'm the only guy that can save you from this bad stuff, there's a lot of people that are going to buy into that kind of crap. And they did.
Yeah, it doesn't matter which country.
Yes.
Yeah, because you can look at it here in the U.S. or like you said with ISIS. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, or if you go back decades ago and look at North Korea. I mean, it's all the same.
It's all the same. Well, look,
it's different sides of the same fucking coin.
Yeah,
I mean, it really is.
How many attacks? Like, it's amazing to me. Like, you have a better chance of growing a shark on your asshole than getting attacked by anybody.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And dude,
I think that's going to be the lead into the show, Scott.
You have a better chance of having a shark. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
I mean, dude, like, we've had a couple attacks here, and all of them were like homegrown. None of those people were like refugees or anything. They were all people that were American citizens, and they were sympathetic. And then ISIS just claims it because why not? It makes them look stronger.
They were just like, these extremist guys, they have a point, and then they go off and do their own thing. And then it's claimed as, Oh yeah, we coordinated that shit. Okay.
It's craziness. So xenophobe, definitely, like, that whole mentality. But a lot of that comes from like being in the world we were in. I mean, really, like, having our own friends that we've known, like some people that are on the Christian side of it, like totally disrespecting homosexuals. Like I live in Western Pennsylvania. Beings. Like I'm like 30 minutes, 40 minutes outside of Pittsburgh. We're kind of in a suburb. I know a lot of racist people, a lot of them.
Isn't Pennsylvania like the hate state?
Well, I don't know.
Dude, it was when we were there.
It really was.
I was gonna say, we're not too far from it here in Missouri. We're in redneck capital too.
People call where we're from Pennsyltucky pretty much, because we're like, it's really, really like, dude, I live 3 miles from a house that's painted like a American flag, and it has a 13-foot Trump statue in front of it.
Good God.
It was on CNN.
Oh my God. Well, like, even when I was a cable guy, because I kind of thought after a while that like everybody kind of agreed with what I agreed with. And then like I'm going into these people's houses and like I'm just the fucking cable guy. You don't have to tell me anything, But like people would be all like, so did you go to that Trump rally? And I'm like, no, I was working probably, And they're like, well, I'd rather vote for him than get that cunt into, and I'm just like,
that's all we heard here.
Yeah, I'm just like, holy shit. Like, not only do you believe this, which is shocking enough that like that's your only justification for it, but that you feel the need to tell a complete stranger that,
I'm going to tell you that it's either Tweedledee or Tweedledum when it comes to those two. So,
well, my wife is so left that like, she's, like even I feel I seem like a conservative asshole in comparison. Like, I'm
the piece of shit conservative here.
She's so left that like when I'm telling her this stuff that I've experienced at work every day, she like can't believe it. So like when the votes were coming in and we're watching the election online, she's absolutely just like losing her shit. Like, and because she was like, well, nobody's gonna actually vote for Trump, and I was like, well,
they are.
An uncomfortable amount of people are going to.
Yeah,
I don't know if that means that it's gonna actually happen.
Yeah, there's so many silent voters for him that was unbelievable. Dude. I love that stuff. Like Dan's like rolling his eyes over here, so we got to switch something up because he's gonna kill us.
Well, we've been talking.
You're lucky I've let you go this long.
We've been talking for 3 hours, and if an hour of that is politics, I don't think we can post it. So it's one of those like.
This will be the hidden Scott episode. Some of the stuff that we've been talking.
We make it a Patreon only. You pay $3, you get to hear the Scott politics.
Yeah,
but
seriously, Scott, this has been amazing.
We'll send you $1.50 for every
Yeah, no kidding,
everything. Nice.
Yeah, we don't make shit, but yeah, it's
I know. Neither do we, man. I don't make it and make nothing on our band either. So
that sucks though, because it really should be more than that. I'm not trying to be a fan too much, but like it's one of those things where like
straight up be a fan, because
I never understood.
It's good stuff.
I never understood why people didn't give ZAO that, and I get that there was like internal conflict. I get that there were shows canceled and feelings hurt and all that shit, but like when it really comes down to it, you look at a band that has created kind of a legacy, like Neurosis did. I'm making that comparison,
Neurosis and they deserve. I think a band like that deserves everything.
Well, you guys too, and I think the worst part about ZAO really is the Christian origin or the Christian origin.
I think you're right.
I feel like ZAO could have been so much bigger had it not had that stigma attached to it.
Yeah. Because we're still going to deal with it. Like no matter what we do.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're never going to be looked at in like just normal metal bands as they'll either not know who we are, which is fine, or if they do know, they're going to write us off because they think we're something we're not.
Right. Well, Well-Intentioned Virus isn't a Christian album at all. Yeah, even close.
Dude, Fear is really not. Awake is totally not. Well-Intentioned Virus is absolutely not.
Come on, let's be honest. Even Liberate really isn't.
No, Liberate's talking about. I mean, I don't think we've ever like Dan's just written stuff that comes from him. Like he's never written anything. So like if he had like some beliefs or if he did talk about God in any way, it was always like his own like yearning or asking or like where is it? Where like even now like even though I think he's lost a lot of his religious belief, it's still like there's still bigger things. Like you still do the fact that like we're hurtling through space. I mean, dude, like
1,000,000 miles an hour. Yeah, there's this like cosmic fear to it. Yeah,
dude, you can't look up in the sky and look at the moon. See the fact that like this is look. We have there may not be an end to the universe. Why do you need anything like even more than that to be in awe every day?
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, and I agree with that. Like, even with like stuff like Blood and Fire, because like I experienced this playing Christian hardcore back in the day. Like, even Blood and Fire, you can say, well, it was a Christian album for that. Even I felt pressure though to the whole. You have to make all of your lyrics fit into this box.
Yeah.
Or nobody's gonna listen to you. Like, and that's what makes me so sad about Blood and Fire. And like, I love Blood and Fire. I mean, clearly it's a rock solid thing, but like, it was one of those like I almost feel like the lyrics were. And I don't want to say they were forced or they were insincere. I believe everything that was said, but even if you look at those lyrics based on just their own value, it's still not the same as it was with Splinter Shards or All Else Failed. It was a totally different thing, and I think it's unfortunate. It kind of breaks my heart a little bit that like people are always holding the band to that, And even like when we did our ZAO episode, I think I said I was like, yeah, we're gonna keep the Christian metal thing going. We're gonna talk about ZAO, and like, I look back on that and I was like, shit, why the fuck did I say that?
Yeah, I wish I was on that.
Yeah,
yeah, that was pre-Jeff.
Yeah,
isn't this crazy? Think about it this way. So we get so much crap, right? Under Oath isn't a Christian band anymore.
Yeah, they get no crap. Yeah,
they get no crap. They're playing in front of the biggest crowds I've ever seen.
Yeah,
Under Oath has 0 original members at all.
Right.
And but they still have Aaron.
They have a Pretty Boy front number.
But they didn't for an album,
Yeah, they didn't for an album. So like, that band never gets shit about anything. Like, and I'm glad they shouldn't. Norma Jean isn't a Christian band really anymore. And that band has 0 members from when they started. And every time you get an interview, every time they have like a new record come out, it never says, "Oh, this band, no original members, not Christian." Like, dude,
nobody holds them to the same like fucking set of standards that they hold ZAO to. It's like
we are all every single time we do anything. It's all, like every interview we get. So what's it like not having starting over with all different people? And we're like, dude, we've been the same band for fucking 10 years.
I was going to say, I wouldn't even think to ask that question even on this interview because I feel like Scott and ZAO, it's like always been a thing almost, like you've got those early records, sure, but like that's in my mind, in my recent memory, I can't think of a time where, and I even said that on the ZAO episode when they're like, ZAO has a really consistent sound, and the first thing I said was, it's Scott. That was like literally my first.
Yeah, I think we're gonna be on a fucking crusade now because we do not. I mean, we don't want that to happen. I mean, or not anymore, at least. I mean, I know it happens all the fucking time. That it's not fair.
No, it's not. Well, dude, I think about it too. It drives me crazy. I joined in '98. I joined in like late '98. Okay. Brett was in the band for less than a year.
Right. And he's still credited. And even we did it. We gave him way more credit than we should have,
And I love him. And I'm glad. I want him to get every respect he deserves for being part of a record that was really important to some people. Like, we'll never take that away. But like, people shouldn't be like, well, ZAO should have changed their name. Like, dude, he was in the band for a year. Like, if you're going to change the name, you change it. Jesse should have changed it.
Well, they should have changed it before they did Blood and Fire.
That's what I mean. Like, don't yell at us. Because I have worked since 1998 to build this name to where it is now. So, we've dropped, I think Funeral of God was our biggest selling record. So, like, we worked really hard up until that to, like, get the band the notoriety that we were, whatever. I mean, and we're far from even how big we were then. Like, we, and that's fine. Like, we're so happy to be doing it again. I don't care, but I don't think it's fair. Like, when we come out with stuff, just the way people act and treat us and say things about how we're not this or that, or like, you're not this type of band. Like, dude, then I don't know what you want us to do. Like, we're just trying to be honest and have fun.
Yeah, go listen to whatever band is popular on Solid State now. Like, if that's what you're looking for, Yeah,
it's just it's crazy to be held to a standard that I don't think any of our peers were held to. And like, ZAO was one of those bands too. Like, we were playing with like Nile in 1999.
Right,
nice.
That would have been fucking great.
Oh man, I wish I could have seen that.
We did a show with Today Is the Day was the headliner, Nile and us.
Oh,
we
wow.
did. We played.
That's badass.
We
should
played
be proud
with
of that.
So many. We played with Napalm Death.
Oh hell yeah.
We played with, and the dude from Kirk from Crowbar was like their like tech or something. So I got to meet that dude. But he won't remember me at all. But like,
it's all right.
We've done so much outside of the Christian scene. It's amazing that we haven't got, like, we played a bunch of shows with Converge. We played shows with, we played with Every Time I Die a bunch, Dillinger a lot, tons of bands that.
Pig Destroyer. I remember you guys played with Pig Destroyer for a while.
We played with In Flames, Devil Driver.
Yeah, you should listen to our In Flames episode.
Don't listen to that episode. I'm a total dickhole.
Yeah. He has epic rants. Well, actually, we both do, but yeah.
I was really drunk, but yeah, like it's but yeah, no, like that's the annoying thing is that like the Christian fans are great. To an extent, as long as you're still feeding the
as long as you're up for a double award, they're happy.
Yep.
But that's
and I think a lot of those people,
they're hypocrites.
Sadly, it's sadly probably what they might have left. Maybe that's fine.
Well, that's something that ties them to their faith, though. Yeah, is the whole idea of like I'm going to rely on this other person,
And dude, think about, like, we're a band. If you like us only because of that, why are you listening to us?
What the hell are you doing? Yeah.
Right.
Like,
agreed.
If you don't like the music and you're just listening to it so you can hear Dan, like, verify your beliefs, like, what are you doing? Go to church then. Like, if you're a fan of our band and you're a fan of, like, us as people, like, wouldn't you kind of, unless you think we suck now, but no, it's not that. Like, you just
that's definitely not. I think the general consensus.
Yeah, you just think you were just mad because we're not talking about the stuff you want to hear, and that's
right.
Well, I have to say one thing. After this discussion, I feel like it's fucking cheesy, but I feel like I need to be on a crusade because you guys, you rock. Well, you're metal, so I feel like we need to be able.
Buddy, just say it.
Yeah, like truthfully, like I discovered you guys because of Brett. I'm not gonna lie. That
totally fine.
Yeah, like that's how I knew about you guys.
It's bullshit, Jeff.
Well, no, yeah, let's rewind it here a bit. Yes, I knew about you guys because of Brett, and then I was reaffirmed because of Dan, saying because of Brett.
You don't got a choice. You can't be my friend and not like ZAO.
Yeah. That was that's what happened. But like I was a big Tooth and Nail and Solid State guy to begin with.
So are you a Juliana Theory fan?
Yeah, that's where it came from.
Are you happy that? Well, they're not touring now. They're like writing a record.
Yeah, they did like what is it, a 20th anniversary tour or something or other that they're doing right now.
They canceled it because they want to write a new record and then go out
and
I'll listen to it. Yeah, but I'm more of a. I like your guys' stuff because I feel like it's honest. I feel like it's forthright. I mean, it's in front. You know, you guys are putting out stuff that you guys believe in, and I don't always. When I listen to Christian music, I don't always believe everything they're saying. I know that's. Maybe I shouldn't say that, but I do feel that way. Like, I feel like sometimes that Christian bands...
I could tell you some stories, man.
Oh, I'm sure you could.
From the road. Yeah.
Yeah, but like, there's a lot of hardcore Nazarenes in my family. And I feel like they do the things that they do, and music shows up the way that it does because that's what they think they're supposed to do instead of what they believe themselves.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that in the scene. I mean, Tim said it.
There's Lambesis, is that what you're talking about? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There's no belief. I mean, I think it's straight up a fact. There's no belief. It's a straight up fact.
Yeah.
And I love the stuff that you guys put out, and I feel like we should, as cliche as it sounds, we should be on a crusade for you guys because we love your shit.
You don't think I am?
Welcome to Dan Terry 2003.
Yes, I mean, yeah. I mean, Dan's been on your boat for a long time, but I mean, truthfully, Scott, this has been probably the most enjoyable interview that I've done. I feel like you've been incredibly honest. I mean, and I'm not trying to be a cheeseball or anything, but
you are being, but that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to be. I just happen to come off that way. But this has been really enjoyable, and I believe in you. I believe in the stuff that you know, the things that you're saying.
Yeah, like I'm not. Well, that's our whole thing is just being real. Like,
yeah, exactly. I feel like you're a real person. I don't feel like you're just being cliche.
Like, yep.
You're saying these things, and you're part of ZAO because you believe, you know, it's not just because you're just putting it out there to make a buck.
Because we're not making.
But that's what makes me love music. I love music because of what you guys are doing, and that's what makes me, you know, want to listen more. I
can help you with that.
Yeah, I'm sure you can, Dan. But I guess
a lot of this. That record was like, I was writing a lot of that stuff when ZAO wasn't really even active. I didn't even know if the band was going to exist, really. Like, we were hoping, like, nothing was ever weird, but we just didn't know. And I just, like, I would be writing it and playing it if we weren't, like, I would be very bummed out to not be able to share it with people, but I'd still be doing it.
Yeah, you'd still be doing it even if nobody
got there. This was close to becoming the Scott Mellinger experience. Like, you know. Like,
no, I would never. I need Dan, man. I need Dan on board.
He's great, too. Man. Big fan of Dan's. It was really inspirational for me, especially as a kid in high school that was like starting to
He's
sing.
a young whippersnapper over there.
Starting to sing in hardcore bands. It's like there's this guy that I really look up to that he's also Dan and he also screams, you know. So it was like really, you know, as fundamentally dumb as that may sound, like it was really, really huge for me. And, you know, obviously, you know, it's weird too because like when there was the vocalist switch where you guys had Josh on there for like 5 minutes, you know, and I remember being like, oh well, that's okay because he sounds just like Dan. It's funny because then I saw the band with him and then I saw the band with Dan and I was like, there's no fucking comparison. Like I remember
Dan's like he's the real guy.
He's the real fucking deal. Yeah, like
so. As much as we love, like everybody that's ever been in the band, we all are friends. But
that's pretty cool. I mean, you can't. We just did like I said, we talked about previously. We did a Pantera episode, like, and obviously, like,
so tongue in cheek.
Well, yeah, we talk about friends. I'm like, that's like cool. Like we talk about Daryl and Phil. They were not friends.
Well, dude, like Vinnie Paul will not be in the same room with Anselmo. Still,
dude. Seriously?
Dude, Dimebag's family didn't let Phil come to the funeral. You know, holy shit, that speaks volumes. You know?
Honestly, I don't think I could be in the same room as Phil without physically accosting him because he's that
dude. He'd beat my ass, but I would definitely accost him regardless.
Dude, I'm 6'1" and 180 pounds, and I'd beat the shit out of him.
Oh no, I wouldn't win, but I would definitely still do the accosting. But you know,
you might get a few licks on me, but man, that guy. I've said it before. I think Phil is the biggest dick in metal. I hate him.
A dude that gets on stage and does white power and then says he was talking about white wine.
Yeah, and then when you have Rob came back and said, dude, you're full of shit.
Yeah, and then he called out Rob.
Yeah, Rob said bullshit. No, dude, he just dude, Rob just had he's in his 50s now, man. He looks fucking great.
I don't know if you guys are getting this, but ever since we posted the Pantera episode, I've been getting literally hundreds of Pantera memes sent to me since then, because I was the hater. I was the one that was like, they're not that great, you know? And so I've been getting hundreds, and I guess the best one that I got...
Twitter has not been that cruel, but okay.
The best one that I got was one that was like, it showed the D&D Dungeon Master, and he's like...
I think I got that.
He's like, all right, you've just played a show. What do you want to say at the end of the show? And Phil's standing there, and he's like, I want to tell him thanks for coming out and have a great night. And then he rolls the dice, and it rolls into a 1, and he's just like, white power. You know, like, it's literally like the worst possible fucking thing you could do at the end of a show. Like,
yeah, it goes.
That guy.
You just finished playing a show. How would you like to address the crowd?
Oh, you got it pulled up. Nice.
I want to thank the crowd for coming out and telling them to have a good night. And he rolls a critical fail. White power. And it shows Phil and sound.
Oh my God, it's like total suicide for like whatever it is you're doing. You know, the only thing worse than that is being like, we're a Christian band and we're here to talk about the Lord Jesus Christ. You know,
Satan is God.
Yeah.
But I have to take my. You didn't. Please do it. Okay, I'm gonna. Holy crap, dude! I didn't realize how late it was.
It's been a while.
It's 11 o'clock
sorry,
your
dude.
time. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
we can jet.
We're time totally suckers. Cool. Yeah.
No, dude, I love doing these things. I have to wake up for work tomorrow. So.
I hear you, dude. I got to be at work at 5 tomorrow. Yeah.
So real quick, Scott, before you go, give me shit for liking Steve Peck.
I can't, like, because I am so glad you like him.
He's my favorite.
I really am. What is it about? Okay,
sorry, I gotta go. Jesse is favorite, but yeah.
What is it about Steve? Is it just like how solid he is?
Solid as fuck.
Yep.
His timing is on point. The live shows that I can find where I've watched him play, he does not seem at all uncomfortable or out of place.
No, he wasn't at all. Like I think let me see how to explain it.
I've heard the demos that Jesse did. That I guess it was you and Jesse and Corey Darst.
Okay.
And I listened to him like, okay, so clearly a lot of the parts were written by Jesse, but now here's what it would be like if you gave those parts to a very solid drummer. Like syncopated solid.
The record was definitely fixed.
Sure.
But that's what you did. Like, it's Pro Tools. Like, everybody's going to fix it. It doesn't matter even if it didn't need fixed. Right. I thought he did a pretty good job. I liked a lot of just what he did, like his raw stuff, a little better because it felt more natural to me. But where we wanted to go, Steve would tell you himself there's no way he could do what Jeff does.
Well, Jeff's amazing. Like, I can't say that enough, that like he really was what the band needed following Funeral God, because I don't think Steve was on the same level as Jesse, and I definitely don't think he was on the same level as Jeff. Not to say that he was a bad drummer, but like Joe's worship,
awesome.
Joe's worship comes more from the fact that Joe's more of a rock guy.
Oh, well, dude, and actually me, Dan, and Steve did like a rock band for a little while. So, I mean, he was a jazz drummer.
Holy
so
shit.
That's like kind of his main, like his forte is jazz more. But no, he can play to a click better than a lot of people that I've played with.
Yeah.
He's really good with a click, and he's really solid. But yeah, like what I think where we wanted to go, like as extreme, and we're not even really, compared to some bands, we're not even close to that extreme, but like,
oh, fuck that. It's pretty extreme, man. Like,
yeah, it is.
Even though the music, yeah, sure, I've heard heavier, I've heard Nile and shit, but like, you know, as far as like the vocal really carries the extremity more so than the music, in my opinion. Because when people still hear Dan's voice, I still get that reaction in 2017 of like, holy shit, what kind of razor blades is that dude swallowing?
Yeah, well, dude, we just finished it. I think it's going to be out in October. There were a couple songs that we had left over from the Well-Intentioned Virus that are going to come out as an EP.
Sweet deal.
We're there.
And dude, Dan sounds vicious.
Yeah,
on this stuff.
He sounds vicious as
all the
fuck
time
on the new record. I mean,
yeah, he does.
I wasn't even prepared for that fully. Like, I was like, I kind of thought it was going to be more like Awake, which I'm not saying it didn't sound good on Awake, but Awake was more like the Funeral of God to me, in that it was more of like I won't say it was a rock record, but it had the verse, chorus, verse in places and stuff like that. And
I think that was Awake was cool, and we were really happy with it, but it was like kind of starting over and like easing ourselves into like getting back into it. I think now, like, we really, there's an EP coming out where there's like 10 or 11 songs already for the next record. Like, we're writing like crazy.
This is all good news.
Yeah. We're all excited.
Yeah, dude, for the foreseeable future, we want to have like an EP and a record out like every 2 years. So,
well, as a fan, I can't complain about any of that. I'm totally down.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, actually, I know you got to go, Scott.
We got to wrap this up, man. His phone's dying. We're fucking.
Yeah. I'll ask this question first. Is there anything you've said over the past 4 hours that you don't want me to publish?
Oh, no.
All right, cool.
That's all I need.
I live and die by the words.
He's a real dude.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. All right. What have you been listening to this week? Like what's your album of the week? It doesn't have to be new. Doesn't have to be heavy. Yeah. Just what's your jam going on right now?
All the new Arcade Fire stuff.
Nice. Good deal.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I totally dig
jamming all the new Arcade Fire songs that they put up on YouTube, and I think the record comes out soon. So I'm really excited. Them, and I listen to like this band Future Islands a lot.
And what's Future Island? I'm not familiar with them.
It's kind of like a weird underground avant-garde 80s band. Like it's super. Like,
I grew up in the 80s, so 80s are my jam. Too. So I'm down with it. I was born.
Dude, I listen to so much stuff. Like I love everything. Like,
I do too.
Gojira, right? Are you a Gojira fan?
Gojira? Yeah.
Oh my god, dude! Listen to Haunting Pools.
Because I wanted to go into this like really long discussion that thankfully we didn't.
Yeah,
but I was like, I hear Gojira on the new ZAO record.
Well, okay, let me rephrase. I love Gojira. I love them, but
I want to hear this.
I'm a bigger Morbid Angel fan.
Oh fuck yeah!
Oh yeah!
I think all Gojira is, even though I love them, is a better recorded, more listenable Morbid Angel. Like if you listen to like their older stuff, like Magma's kind of different though. Magma's like on a whole other level. But like, From Mars to Sirius, like even La Enfant Sauvage, like there's so much Morbid Angel in that stuff. Like those riffs are so Morbid Angel to me, and I love it.
I never really thought about that, so that's going to give me something to do to shy away from whatever we're doing next week. Yeah,
it takes me a half-hour drive home. I'm going to be listening to Morbid Angel now because I'm a huge Duplantier brother fans.
Yeah, so if you listen, just here's what you're going to do. You notice how like in Gojira they always have those riffs with like the super heavy crunchy stuff, and then they do that weird scrapey noise.
Yeah.
Morbid Angel does that all the time, and they were doing it in like early 90s.
Oh,
yeah, I guess that's true.
Interesting.
Yeah. I've only got Altars of Madness and one or two other Morbid Angel records, but
oh, dude, Domination and Covenant are such good records. But like, what's the other one? I can't remember the one. It's the one that's like Formula's Fatal to the Flesh. I think that's it. People hated that record. I think it's awesome. I love all that Morbid Angel stuff. So
I'm downloading it now. So
do it. It's so good. If
you're Formula's Fatals to the Flesh. Yep. I think that's it.
Such a good record.
Scott, thanks for hanging out with us, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
We had a blast.
Probably the longest time we've ever talked to anybody.
Yeah.
And we just had so many.
We thoroughly appreciate it.
No, we had so many questions.
And we just became a political podcast. Yay!
Yeah.
God, I really hope you cut all that shit out. But yeah, like it's no, that's awesome, man. And it's something I say to everybody that we talk to. The door's kind of always open if you ever want to talk about a band or talk about whatever, we're always down. We're always available.
Yeah, you got Dan. You're the one that texts me all the time, right?
Yeah, dude.
Or when you do text, text anytime, man. Like I'm
dude, for
literally.
Sure.
This is how I met Travis over the podcast, and now we talk every couple days.
Yeah, so. It's gonna be boring shit like my kids and stuff like that. But it's
especially
fine.
He's about ready to have one to pop out. Yeah,
dude. So you'll definitely be on the list for holy shit, I have a son, because I've got 2 daughters, and so the third one is actually a son, which I'm like,
and I have 2 sons, and I am not having a daughter, so I'm kind of jealous.
Yeah, well,
of Dan.
We have one. We haven't. I think we're gonna just stick with one, man. I have a little girl. And
I don't get a minute anymore. This is the only this is the only fun thing I do anymore, and it totally. Based on what we talked about earlier, it's definitely a good thing that we do it. But this was awesome, and we
and then you said you're going to be heading to Nashville eventually. Hit us
we'll
up.
be there. Actually, I've been putting a little bit of thought into possibly showing up for one of the Pittsburgh shows. I don't know if I don't know if Travis told you, but there was a while back when you guys were in Indianapolis. I think it was back in April.
Oh yeah,
and,
he was.
I was
town.
also in Indianapolis for a work business trip, and I was so pissed off because when I got back home, I started looking at Travis's Facebook, and he was like, "Yeah, we're here at Kuma's Corner, hanging out and all this shit." And I was like, dude, I was 5 miles from there, and I knew Travis. I was like, fuck, I could have just dropped by or something, it would have been a thing. But I was like, fuck,
that's terrible.
That's a missed opportunity. But
the next time we play, we're doing a little October run where it's Richmond, Virginia. Where is it? Raleigh, North Carolina, then Harrisburg. I think Travis is coming to the Harrisburg show.
Yeah, cool, Harrisburg is the closest to us. So
I was thinking about maybe doing a road trip or something, because I love that shit. I miss touring a little bit, not too much.
Yeah,
but,
I'm envious because I never got the tour.
Yeah, so. I'll let you know definitely well in advance if that's happening.
Cool.
This has been episode 24 of Discography Discussion. Thank you for listening. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at discussmetal. Subscribe to our podcast everywhere you listen to podcasts, including Google Play, iTunes, and Stitcher. Visit discussmetal.com for all things discography discussion, and please send questions and comments to danandjoeshow@gmail.com. If you are not a patron, you can become one at patreon.com/discussmetal. We have some sweet perks. If you are an iTunes subscriber, please leave us a 5-star review. It really helps us out and lets us know you're listening. Stitcher as well. Anywhere you listen to this podcast, thank you very much. And thank you, Scott, for the marathon conversation. We will see you in the future.
Yeah, that dude's
awesome.
Insane too. But yeah.
Brandon's a great guy as well.
We hung out with him a little bit when we played Mesa with him. He's a super good dude too.
Joe and I were actually going to make the drive from St. Louis down there to see that show. And
that's nuts.
It's nuts, but it was one of those things where we were just like, fuck it, I hadn't seen ZAO in a long time, and so it was one of those and I had just seen American Standard, so yeah. Yeah, you get a little bit closer
than Mesa.
Yeah.
How far are you guys? You're in St. Louis, so how far?
20 minutes south of St. Louis.
Yeah.
Okay, because like I think we're gonna try to hit like Texas in the next little bit. We're gonna probably do a Nashville show next.
Nashville's really close.
Yeah, Nashville's not bad.
Yeah, that's less than 5 hours.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
I'll let you guys know then for that. Yeah. Awesome.
Can't give a ringing endorsement for playing in St. Louis. It's a little rough.
Yeah, you might get your shit stolen if you play here.
Well, yeah.
I mean, every time we've played there, we played at Creepy Crawl.
Nice.
I don't know if we ever played anywhere else, but we played the Creepy Crawl, and it's like it was never bad. It was just
it was rinky-dink, though.
It's a rinky-dink hole in the wall, but
I went and saw
that stuff.
Yeah, because I guess both times I saw you was at the Crawl.
Yeah.
I remember one time it was hot as balls. It's just almost the only thing I remember from that show. I don't remember the set or anything. I just remember like it was so hot. I was like,
yeah. I remember every time us playing there, it's hot as fuck. Yes.